Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to Belgium. We are here at the iconic Spa-Francorchamps circuit, just outside one of the quintessential GT3 racing spots on the world calendar. It's David Christie alongside Andy McEwan for arguably the pinnacle of the autumn season. It is the final round of the Sprint Cup, Season 4 here at SimGrid. Andy, I'm back. Did you miss me?
The right answer is yes here, isn't it, David? No, of course we did. It wasn't quite the same without you last time at Zandvoort, and you missed a really good race, and one that really did keep us guessing right down to the final few minutes, really. As has kind of been the case with most of the races this season. It's been a cracking season of racing, hasn't it? And yeah, so nice that it all comes down to this one final race, and what a venue for it all to be decided at. Can't wait.
The one round that I missed in UK OG take their win last time out at Zandvoort, and of course that is what we are going to be talking about quite a lot tonight. Random Pass the Bull at the top of the championship from UK OG 47 by 201 points against 180. 21 points is the difference, 50 points on offer for the winner tonight. We will do our best to keep you up to date with all of the permutations from the potential winners tonight. It's a case of the rest of what could have been for the likes of XL Racing by Renvilton, Omega G Performance, Grip Hacks Engineering, Dalkin Community, FFS Syndicus, Unicorns Love, Simware Pro and Carbon Simsport rounding out the top 10 just now, but still plenty of points, Andy, that could see that changing. Right, Spa, I mean, it is the essential GT3 track. What on earth do you think we're going to see tonight?
I think we're going to see lots of good racing. It's certainly a track that promotes good overtaking, but probably a few mistakes as well. It is a really challenging circuit, this. A lot of people like to say of Spa that it's been diluted now, and Formula 1 drivers, for example, have it easy because it's got all this runoff area and they can go flat out through Eau Rouge. But in a GT3 car, it's actually still a real handful. You can go flat through Eau Rouge and Raidillon, but only just, and if you mess it up, it's quite a sizable accident if it goes wrong. The same is kind of true of a number of other places too. So, and then you've also, of course, got the prospect of some changeable weather, David, which Spa is famous for, or infamous perhaps is the better word. So add all that together, and it really is still a proper challenge.
Well, talking of a proper challenge then, let's have a look at what awaits the drivers tonight with our Bentley Continental Hot Lap.
The Bentley Continental GT3 will take us on a hot lap with the iconic Spa-Francorchamps circuit here in the Ardennes. Now across the stripe and heading over to La Source, going down the gears into first, 60 kph on the apex, and then start to build the speed as we descend our way down the hill to two of the most iconic corners in modern day motorsport, pushing over 245 kilometers an hour through Eau Rouge, now up towards the crest of the hill, over Raidillon, using as much curve on the left hand side as you dare before the long run down the Kemmel straight before Les Gommes. So the Bentley now will increase speed and be not too shy off of the rev limiter as we go down from 6 at 265 down to second gear at about 120 kph through the right, through the left, now into the right hander here at Malmedy before we start descending down the hill. And this is where things get truly committed in any sense of the word when it comes to GT3s. Through Bruxelles, second gear at 95 kilometers an hour. Now it's through the left-hander, the corner that effectively has no name, before the double left here, originally known as double gauche, but now known as Pouin. Up to fifth gear, drop down into fourth, 175 on the apex, allow the car to just drift out wide to the right and then coax it back into the left whilst pulling fifth gear. As we now head into Le Fagne, down from 5th at 230 kph down to 2nd, and nearly scrubbing half the speed off, through into the next left-hander, 3rd gear at 150, a little bit of snap-on oversteer there, good correction to get through now into Campus and then Stavelot, as you now start to build the acceleration, the speed and the commitment, up to 4th gear, 200 kph, now pull into 5th gear, and the speed starts to increase through Corporal Frère. Position the car to the correct place as you now go through Blanchimont at over 250 kph in top gear. And now this is the final part of the circuit where you really need to get things right. All the way down the gearbox into first, through the right-hander at 60 kph, through the left, and now start to build the speed. And that is a hot lap here in the Ardennes Forest at Spa-Francorchamps.
So there we go, Andy. That is what our drivers have in front of them tonight. And you've got the added benefit of it is absolutely chucking it down out there. We don't do things by half here at SimGrid, do we?
I was going to say then, I know that was supposed to be Spa that we were seeing a hot lap of, but it just didn't look properly like Spa, did it? Now it does, because it's grey, it's wet, it's teeming it down with rain, and yeah, this now is a real challenge, because to set a quick lap around here, you have to be, you know, Alex said it there during that hot lap, you have to be fully committed, and you just can't commit to these corners now when it's this wet. You've got to stay off the white lines, you've got to try and avoid the curbs, you've got to be careful not to lock up going into the corners, and it means stringing together even one quick lap in this qualifying session is going to be a challenge, let alone surviving these conditions for 90 minutes later on.
And just thinking about the championship as well, Andy, obviously we've got Random Pastable racing up in the top spot of that championship, 201 points. UKOG 47, although they've done everything they can to keep themselves in with a chance, they've essentially given themselves, you know, a last-minute reprieve with that win at Zandvoort. But tonight, I mean, really they have to bank on Random Pastable having one of the worst races in their career.
Well, yes and no. It depends how quick the McLaren is in these conditions, I think, because if it's true to real life, then the McLaren may possibly struggle to go up against the Porsche, but if UKOG were able to win the race, for argument's sake, Random Pastable still need a top 5, so UKOG, they are still in a position to actually apply some pressure here to Random Pastable, but they must perform. You're right, if UKOG have an off week, then that might unfortunately be realistically the end of their championship hopes. Of course, the statistics, though, David, tell us that they won't have a bad week, because they really haven't had a bad one all season, have they? We've had 5 races so far. They have never yet finished outside of the top 5. So this McLaren squad have been the definition of consistency, and they're really going to need to try and keep those sort of performances going tonight, just to keep the pressure on the championship leaders.
Yeah, and just actually on that point as well, given that there is still that outside mathematical chance, it does make you wonder actually, Andy, all the way back to that round start at Misano, if things had been just that little bit different for Random Pastable, then we wouldn't be in this situation. We wouldn't even be talking about this, because we'd have already wrapped up at Zandvoort them as the season champions.
Yeah, because they only managed to finish 17th in that first round of the championship. They scored just 6 championship points when there were 50 on offer, of course, if they could have won. So, yeah, you're right. If they'd have been anywhere inside the top half dozen or so, then the championship would pretty much have been theirs already. But motorsport is full of ifs, buts and maybes, isn't it? And I'm sure they will be doing their best not to dwell on Misano. But, you know, that will serve as a little bit of inspiration maybe to UKOG. They know that Random Pastable are not infallible. They have made mistakes. They have had one bad race this season. All that UKOG need to happen is for Random Pastable to have another bad race, and all of a sudden the championship picture changes completely.
So here's a question for you then, Andy. We're almost 10 minutes into the final qualifying session of this season, and our championship contenders, UKOG 47, driven by George Whitby, currently do not have a timed lap, even a slow outlap, on the timing board just now. Surely, with every minute that goes by that they don't have a number on the board, it's more and more pressure they're putting onto their own back, because, you know, realistically they need to be in that top 3 to get started.
Yeah, absolutely. They need to start towards the front, don't they? Because if they allow the Random Pastable squad to make a break at the start of the race, I don't think they'll ever see them again. So I did notice they've been on track, UKOG 47, but they went straight for the pit lane. So I can only assume that that was for a setup change of some sort. They may not have their wet setup dialed in quite as they wanted it. So we hopefully will see them get back out there. But of course, it's a long lap. It's 2.5 minutes for an out lap. More than that, really, if you have to traipse all the way down the pit lane. It's a long pit lane, remember. So, you could be looking at around 3 minutes just to get back out and onto the circuit. Then another 2.5 minutes to actually bank a lap straight away. So, yeah, we're almost halfway through the session. 10.5 minutes to go. They need to get a move on with this, don't they?
They absolutely do, and Boothby starting his flying lap now. You can see it on the right-hand side. He is the number 47 car, just going down towards Eau Rouge and Radion just now. The good thing for him is that he is in completely clean air right now. He has got no one around him to distract him. But we've got 10 cars then within a second then of Michael Tauscher in that pole position right now. Pavlos comes across the line, and that is a good improvement. Takes him up from third to second, and 0.2 of a second now off of Michael Tauscher. Just looking at Maciek Malinowski then and Michael Tauscher with Cody Pride, they are random past the ball racing, Andy. And I mean, looking at them this season, you can't even say Zandvoort was a bad result. They got second place. They have been. I mean, they've just been so good. We'll ignore Mazzano, but Kyalami win, a win at Bathurst, a win at Nürburgring, and the second place at Zandvoort. In any other championship, that should be enough to to take the championship.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really good performance from them, and what a good job Cody Pride did stepping in for Michael Tauscher at the last minute for that one round. And really, we never noticed he was gone. It was a typical dominant performance from them, apart from the pit stop. That was the only thing that cost them. They had a slightly slow pit stop. They came out behind the UKOG McLaren, and then from that point on, they were pretty much identically matched on pace. So, yeah, that one little slip-up, which I'm sure they won't be losing too much sleep over, really all that prevented them from winning a remarkable 4th race on the bounce. I mean, that's never been done in Sprint Cup history, having one team winning 4 races in a row, and they came very, very close to doing that once again. On track, though, as we can see, Michael Tauscher and George Boothby, they're both on flying laps here. Boothby will get to the line first, but David, I believe it is the Porsche that is quicker at the moment.
Tauscher is absolutely on fire from what I'm being told. I heard rumblings that despite doing a 2:24.7, he is still on track to be half a second quicker. But what can Boothby do to get his first lap in? And it's a strong lap there, 0.3 of a second off of pole position. But it's all about Tauscher as he comes round the final couple of corners. This is a way to be a huge lap. This could even be, heaven forbid, into the 2:23s. Can he do it? Michael Tauscher for random past the ball goes across 2:24.1. That is absurd, Andy. The nearest person to him, 0.8 of a second. I mean, that is almost a split's worth of difference right there.
Honestly, I think if I were George Boothby, I'd be switching my computer off and going downstairs to have a cup of tea or something, because there is just no point. If that is the pace advantage that Random Pasta Bowl are going to have all night, they are going to be almost impossible to beat. But Boothby, it's worth pointing out, has only had one flying lap, so this lap should be a little bit quicker. The one after that should be quicker still. He's got time to get another 2 or 3 laps in here. Tauscher, of course, is fully up to speed and may not improve again as the rest of the session goes on, so it's not quite over yet. The bare minimum that Boothby needs to achieve here is to get on that front row. That's definitely within reach. He's less than 0.5 of a second away from Damien Paulus in the similar McLaren, remember, so he should be able to match that pace, if not exceed it, and get onto the front row. At least then you've got a half a chance maybe of beating Tauscher into the first corner, but that is a serious effort. We know the Porsche is good around here, we know it's good in the wet, but 8.5 that's just ridiculous.
That is absurd. And just to give you some more context on why we're decrying that lap, we look at the spread of pace from, say, second place all the way down to 24th, and that is typical or atypical of what you would see in one of our Sprint Cup races here at the SimGrid, Andy. And a couple of tenths here and there, maybe 2-3 tenths. You'll get a couple of drivers that are, 3 or 4 drivers split by 1/10 of a second. That is common. To have Tauscher and to have Random Past the Ball Racing come in with its 8 minutes to go, and just absolutely obliterate nearly a second off of that. And makes me wonder, is this track evolving? Because Boothby now is going to jump into second place with this. He's going to be 2/10 off, 3/10 off. So that track, I think, maybe it's evolving. Maybe it's getting a little bit quicker there, Andy.
Yeah, possibly. The rain isn't exactly slackening off, but I think they're clearing a bit of the surface water, aren't they? And just getting into the groove, getting into the rhythm a little bit maybe, and just finding a bit more pace. So that's good news then for the McLaren, which does now jump onto the front row. Marcel Fusey would like to find a similar improvement here. He's 3.3 seconds off the pace at the moment in 21st, but he's over a second up on that at the moment, so he should jump well into the top top dozen or so. No, 18th place for him. 1.9 seconds off the top for the Sidemax Motorworks Mercedes. Tasha Glatter here in the 81 Aston Martin for Black Hawk Racing. He's also a few tenths up, and this might just trouble the second row here. He's about 2 tenths or so slower than Damien Powless in third, and he's about 3 tenths up on that time at the moment. He comes across the start-finish line, and does he jump to third? The answer is... No. In the end, he finds a bit of time, but he lost some of it there, David, in the final sector.
Yeah, that's such a shame, because you saw it there. It was all on that final corner there where he lost about a tenth. But still, I mean, this is what's frustrating, is that Boothby, Pavlos and Jan-Willem van Ommen, those are really good times. But Teicher is just on another planet. That is the scary, scary thing about that. And the problem with all of these drivers, Andy, as we know, is that, it's not just like it's a one-lap show and then they can't actually do anything in the race. All of these drivers are capable of putting these lap times in time and time and time and time again with the massive consistency. So for championship-wise, it's not the best possible start, but... certainly for Boothby in the UKOG 47, but against that sort of quality, against that sort of pace, I just don't understand what they can possibly do.
Well, yes, but I'm not giving this to Random Pastable just yet, because if you cast your mind back 2 weeks ago to the qualifying session at Zandvoort, Random Pastable took pole position from UKOG 47 by just under 0.3 of a second, so they had a similar sort of margin at that last track, and over a shorter circuit as well, of course, so you'd almost expect that gap to be bigger, given the extra length that the Spa-Francorchamps track is. So, actually, 0.3 of a second, George Boothby might not be too... Oh, sorry, he's 8 tenths back now, isn't he, of course, with the latest improvement for Tauscher, my mistake. So yes, no, you're right, I was trying to find some sort of positivity there for UKOG, but it is a fairly crushing time, that, isn't it, from Tauscher. No, it is 0.3. I am talking absolute rubbish. It is 0.3 of a second between Tauscher and Boothby, 8 tenths between Tauscher and Powless in third. So, as I said all along, David, they're still well and truly in this, aren't they?
Yeah. So Tauscher then into pit lane. I've got a feeling he is done and dusted for the day. He's off to get a cup of hot cocoa, I think, Andy, and a little bit of a pat on the back, because that is just an absolutely astonishing level of pace on that one from Tauscher and Random Pastable Racing. It's then UKOG in second place, then George Boothby currently 0.3 of a second behind. Jan-Willem van Ommen in the number 38 is in third place there. That's, of course, Dalking Community. It's then Damien Pavlos in the number 7 car in fourth place for Carbon Simsport Blue. This is Chris Hartfeld for GTWR RHG Academy. Currently in 6th, goes across the line, can't improves slightly on the time, but can't improve on the position. And with 2 minutes left to go, the clock is now ticking. Realistically, though, for George Boothby, another way of looking at it, a slightly more positive and optimistic way of looking at it, is that he's done what he needed to do. He's got the car up on that first row of the grid. It doesn't matter if Tauscher is 0.3 of a second faster on the one lap, because the race pace is where it all matters, Andy.
Yeah, absolutely. He's applying the pressure. That is all they can do. They need to try and force a mistake out of Random Pastable, and the best way to do that, if you can't beat them in qualifying, is at least to join them on the front row. And as I have now decided is the case, they're a similar margin behind as they were last time, and they beat them at Zandvoort, so they know that it's doable. They've just got to put themselves in the best position possible to try and take the fight to them. Artur Czarnecki here, meanwhile, in the PWSR Alpha Ferrari, he just jumped into 15th place. Caught a glimpse a moment or two ago, Felix Rupert in the number 71 XL Racing by Renvelt and Aston Martin. Now that's a team that's in a titanic fight to finish top 3 in the points. There is only 1 point between the 3rd and 4th place teams in the championship, so it's easy for us to get sidetracked with this championship battle, as intriguing as it is. But you've got XL Racing by Renvelt and Omega G Performance's Bentley, the Gripax Engineering Ferrari, which we're watching here, they're 5th in the points and only 10 points behind 3rd place, so that's well worth keeping an eye on as we move through the evening as well.
Absolutely. Just looking points-wise, actually, even down to Simware Pro, down in 9th place, I believe, could actually take 2nd place on... No, they can't. Ignore me. They could take 3rd place, is what I was thinking of there, because they're on 93 points at the moment. Maximum of 50 points on the go tonight, so they could take up to 3rd place. Also important to remember, Andy, top 5 in the championship, they get their hands on some rather cool hard-earned cash after a busy season.
Yeah, that's right, because the prize pool that we've got for the Sprint Cup this time around, as we said, the top 5 finishers get a bit of a share of that. Obviously, the higher up you are, the bigger your share is. 30% of the prize pool will go to the champion, but if you're 5th, you still get 10% of it. So yeah, there's money to be earned here, and rightly so. You know, that's something that's reasonably rare, actually, in sim racing, that you can get something physical to sort of reward you for your efforts over the season. And yeah, nice that the SimGrid are able to offer some prize money here to the teams and make it worthwhile. They've entertained us over the last couple of months, so yeah, they absolutely deserve to win something if they are victorious in the championship. Marco Bischoff there jumps into 11th place in the 991 Ferrari, and he will now see the checkered flag because the session is done. Not too many improvements of significance there towards the end, were they? We had that flurry of activity in the middle part of the session, but then the track of evolution seemed to sort of stagnate a little bit. But my word, David, it is set up absolutely beautifully, isn't it, for the race, with the 2 championship protagonists sharing that front row together.
This is going to be spicy, to say the very, very least, and I am very, very excited to see how this one pans out. We are just watching a couple of minutes just now, watching Marcel Fusy, but my ears are being tingled with the sound of Jan Willem van Ommen in the background, who is on a very, very good lap just now, just behind actually the 285 car of Marcel Fusy. So possibly, in fact, no, I thought maybe he was just close enough to get a little tiny hint of toe, but not quite. So he's coming through the final couple of corners just now. That was Blanchimont down into the chicane. It's going to be the right-hander, then the left. Always intrigued how different drivers attack the final chicane, because it's so important to get yourself out and into a better start for the lap there. 0.5 of a second. I do believe that is a bit of an improvement by about 0.2 of a second from Jan Willem van Ommen there. So there you go. Michael Tauscher for Random Past the Ball Racing in the 992 takes pole position from George Boothby. Your championship contenders 1 and 2 on the grid there. It's then Jan Willem van Ommen in 3rd place, Damien Pavlis in 4th, Sascha Glasser in 5th place, Chris Hartfeld in 6th, Nick Babin in 7th, Eunice Salvalainen in 8th place for Gripax Engineering, Killian Ryan Meenan in 9th place, and Felix Rupert in 10th. We'll take you through the full grid when we head down, but Andy, I mean, that was exactly what Random Past the Ball needed to do, but now it's all about that run down to Eau Rouge, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, yes, you want to be in the lead at that point, of course, but even if you get through Eau Rouge and Radion in the lead, you're then perhaps susceptible to a slipstream up the Kemmel Straight. So the first few corners will be important. I think UKOG, they need to go on the attack. They need to try and get ahead of Random Past the Ball, because remember, beating them by 1 position is not enough. They need to beat them and then back them up into the rest of the pack. Hope that they can force some sort of a mistake or an issue for them. So yeah, going to be a really lively run through the first few corners. And of course, we don't know what the weather's going to do, because that was qualifying. We've seen before, haven't we? The rain can sort of the rain can vanish between qualifying and the race. We saw it at Kyalami earlier on in the season, so it could get drier, it could get even wetter. So many unknowns, and they're really the last thing that you want when you're fighting for a championship.
And that's exactly it. There is so many questions we're about to have answered in the next 5 minutes, so don't go anywhere. If you do enjoy what you're seeing, as always, if you could please like the video and give us a little subscribe as well. We will keep you up to date with all the amazing content here from the SimGrid, not just from Assetto Corsa Competizione, but from all different platforms as well. We'll have more on that later on in the night, but huge news over the past couple of weeks that SimGrid's Andy, reaching out and spreading their wings into to different platforms. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, because I've just had a look outside the virtual commentary box, Andy, and where's that water gone?
They say about a lot of places, but certainly Spa, if you don't like the weather, just wait 5 minutes and it'll change, and that is exactly what has happened. It's 11 AM now in the sim, so time has passed between qualifying and the race, and in that time the clouds have parted, it's gone away. It is still overcast, it's worth pointing out, and this being a 90-minute race, we do have dynamic weather, of course, within Assetto Corsa Competizione, so it may well change partway through the race, as we saw last time out at Zandvoort as well. So that adds an extra bit of spice to the mix, doesn't it? But yeah, completely different conditions, and now the teams, David, have to bolt on a dry setup that they, the last time the drivers were in the cars, the car will have felt completely different. So another unknown now for the teams to contend with.
Well, let's take you through the running order then for the grids for our final race here in Season 4 of the SimGrid Sprint Cup. On pole position is the 992 Random Pastable Racing Machine. It's the 47 UKOG 47 team alongside them on row 1. Row 2 is the 38 of Dalkin Community alongside the number 7 of Carbon Simsport Blue. Row 3 in 5th place is going to be Sasha Glatter in the 81 Blackhawk Racing alongside the number 32 GTWR R8G Academy car. Row 4 in 7th place is going to be the 125 of Carbon Simsport alongside the number 11 of Grip Hacks Engineering, and then in 9th place, starting off row 5, is going to be the 888 of FFS Sendipoos alongside the 71 of XL Racing by Ren Velton. Row 6 is going to be in 11th place, the 991 of Garage 911 powered by Equipper, and that is Marco Bischoff that's in that car there. He is lined up alongside Andre Michel in the number 100 Turn 1 outfit. Got a little bit of support there on YouTube that I saw earlier on. The 112 of TF Racing is alongside the 111 of elferspot.com, 13th and 14th on row 7. Row 8 is going to be Harry Spears in the 285 Sidemax Motorworks machine alongside the number 96 Lamborghini of Sidemax as well. So the two teammates alongside each other. 101 of PWSR Alpha is alongside the 340 Omega E Racing team outfit. That is for 17th and 18th. That is row 9 on the grid. Row 10 is going to be 166 of Beetle Sim Racing.de alongside 728 of BRT Virtual Racing Team. Row 11 is going to be the number 17 of Pulse Simsport alongside the 36 GT and Mega RPM Esports of Sheldon Muscat. Please, Sheldon, let's get you a good result this night. The 99 and 94 are next up. That is, of course, the Turn Racing Point and Distinct GG machines. That's row 12. And at the back of the grid, all by himself on row 13, is the 69 Space Pace and Beetle Sim Racing.de of Bastian Offerman in the big bad BMW. 25 cars in the server ready to go for our final race of the Sprint Cup season here at the SimGrid. It's David Christie and my good buddy Andy McEwan taking you through all of the action tonight. Andy, we've got a minute left to go before we do our formation lap. What on earth do we expect?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? 81% of our viewers on YouTube expect the Random Pasta Bowl team to win the championship, though, according to our latest poll. Only 19% thinking that UKOG 47 can overturn this 21-point deficit that they've got coming into this race. It's going to be hard to do, but this is Spa, this is the Sprint Cup. We've had almost every race this season, David. There's been something unexpected that has happened to one of our front runners in the races, you know, whether it was that penalty back at Misano for Omega G Performance, we've had teams disconnecting, we've had slow pit stops, we've had weather changes, there's always something just lurking around the corner, and over 90 minutes around a circuit such as this one in particular, there's just so much that is out of the drivers and the team's control that can go wrong. And so for that reason alone, I certainly recommend, even the 81% of you that think that this is a done deal already, I do strongly recommend sticking around for the next 90 minutes, because at the very least we should be able to provide you with a really entertaining race and possibly a bit of a sting in the tail of the championship. But the green flag lap then gets underway, and I'm sure, David, that within the virtual cockpits, a little bit of nerves just starting to rise now for Michael Tauscher, who leads the field away. They know they've got the pace to do this, but they also know that there is still the potential for it all to change, and I'm sure the sooner the 90 minutes are done, the better as far as that team are concerned.
Absolutely. Our main concern was for the McLaren in the wet weather conditions, with it being bone dry now. I like the odds of that McLaren a little bit better. I think if it can tuck in the slipstream and stay with that car, then it does have a big chance. Just to give you an update then on that note then, because obviously our main focus is the championship battle, the main championship battle between Random Pass the Bowl and UKOG 47. We'll do our best to keep it up to speed with all of the other championship finishers and positions as well. But as it stands, if UKOG were to do the unthinkable and win this race, and that Random Pass the Bowl were to finish in, say, 6th place underneath, I think that would be enough. I think anywhere below 6th place and UKOG 47 take the win, that I think would turn the championship on its head. However, that is very unlikely unless we get something going really badly wrong for the 992 at the race start. And given how controlled and how disciplined they've been so far in this championship, it looks very unlikely, doesn't it?
It looks unlikely, yes, but certainly not impossible. I mean, if you're George Boothby at this point, I'd almost be tempted to put all of my eggs in one basket. Just decide, right, I'm gonna absolutely go for it on this first lap. Down the Kemmel Straight, get in the slipstream, flash the lights, weave around, jink to the inside, try and make them think that I'm going to make a move, because that's the point of the race where, in all likelihood, unless it happens during the pit window, that is the point of the race where maybe the McLaren might be able to move ahead. So you've got to put that pressure on, you've got to try and take your chances whilst you get them. If Boothby just settles into line and behaves like a perfect gentleman, as he has throughout the whole rest of the season, they ain't going to win the championship. They've got to try and rough up that 992 car without ever hitting it, without getting any penalties. Just do everything you can to distract them, because you're right, even if UKOG win the race, a top 5 finish would be enough for Random Pass the Bowl, regardless of where UKOG finish. And for the UKOG squad, by the way, they must finish in the top 9 in the race to have any mathematical chance. If they were to finish 9th in the race and the 992 car finished at the back of the point, 20th or lower, that could still mathematically give the title to UKOG 47. So yeah, it's all or nothing this really for the McLaren team. They've got to try and win, they've got to try and outscore the Porsche, and really the first lap is their best chance to do that.
It really, really is. Just to remind you then, for the final race, it is, of course, a 90-minute race. There will be a pit window that opens up 40 minutes into the race. That pit window is open for 10 minutes. They must come in for their mandatory pit stop and swap over as well. Just on that note, you will see as the race starts, a number of 15-second penalties added on. Don't worry, it's not for any specific infringements in the race other than penalties for solo drivers. So drivers who are driving by themselves get a 15-second penalty added on at the start of the race, and that will be taken when they jump into the pits. So here we go then for the final time in Season 4 of the Sprint Cup. It's all to do for George Boothby and the number 47 UKOG team. Can they get the last laugh on the Porsche, the Random Pass the Bowl Porsche, the 992? The car's making their way through the final chicane then to get things started. And of course, your boy's going to remember that it doesn't start at this side. It starts on the run down to Eau Rouge, because Andy, you'd no idea the amount of times that I get so excited. And by this point, I've completely lost the nerve, and then realise as soon as they cross that line that it's not actually go time yet. But as well, I mean, how much stress do you think must be going through these drivers' heads right now? You said that about Michael Tauscher, that he's under a bit of pressure. I actually think it's all on the rest of them just now. If Boothby can nail this start, and we're waiting to find out just now as the cars all come streaming down in 2x2, then he is going to have a very, very good chance as well, because the acceleration on that McLaren is very, very good. But we're just seconds away, mere meters from getting this race underway, and the green flag flies, and it's a good start from both the front runners. I think it's a much better start for the Porsche, so it's McLaren. It has to tuck in behind Michael Tauscher, and they go side by side and it's all fairly clear so far. But here we go then, the McLaren into the toe of the Porsche. It's going to be quicker in a straight line then. What can they do on the brakes then into the corner? It's on the run down towards Les Combes. Around the outside, George on the inside, and George Boothby takes the lead of the race. He's done everything he needs to do, Andy. It's now all about damage limitation.
That was terrific racing, and Tauscher is thinking about coming back at him actually as they drop into Bruxelles, but that was exactly what Boothby had to do. If he can't get in front at the start, then his chances of winning the race and ultimately the championship were looking fairly slim, weren't they? We've got another one of the McLarens that's been in the wars towards the back, but the leaders all through cleanly. A beautiful racing that there from Boothby and Tauscher. Tauscher left him room, Boothby forced the issue without being too aggressive, and his prize is first place. Now, in any other race, David, I'd be saying what he wants to do now is check out, disappear up the road. That's not really what he needs to do now, though, is it? He needs to try and back Tauscher up into Jan-Willem van Ormen, for example, who's in third, Damian Paulus in fourth, Sasha Glatter in fifth. He needs that Porsche out of the top five. What lengths, though, will Boothby be willing to go to make that happen?
Well, we'll see, because we know Boothby is a very, very fair and clean racer, certainly from what we've seen here at the SimGrid. But this is just a fascinating fight that we've got going on. This is Felix Rupert in a train of Aston Martins heading down the road there. You've got Kilian Ryan Meeran and Andre Michel just behind him as well. He's on the tail end of Unisilvlinen for Grip Hacks Engineering. They're coming down to the final chicane for the first time of asking. Looks like it's actually a little bit of a gap there for George Boothby, but they get going. Oh, Boothby goes wide at the chicane, and Porsche's going to have to run down, but surely that Boothby's going to have to tuck in, and he's surely going to try and get a go of this again. But look at Jan-Willem van Ormen jump to the left-hand side in the Aston Martin. George Boothby's going to have to go defensive here, and it's all about this exit from the corner. Tauscher cannot be let to get away here, and that is potentially a monumental moment for the race here.
Yeah, now you see, now we get into another interesting debate. What do the other teams do when they go wheel to wheel with the championship contenders? Is Van Ormen going to let Boothby get on with this, or is he going to try and fight back? They're both closing on the Porsche again. That Porsche is really, really weak in a straight line, and Boothby might have another go. There's a big crash further back, but the leaders are side by side towards the top of the hill. And amazingly, the McLaren goes back through. He can't get it stopped, though. He's over the tarmac runoff area. Back through goes Tauscher, and this time the McLaren might lose second. No, there's just about room to get back in line, but if that is the speed difference between these two cars up the Kemmel Straight, Tauscher is going to have a hard time getting away here, isn't he?
Wow, what a race we've got going on so far. That was absolutely amazing. That was Florian Becker. You saw there. Oh, contact! And Jan-Willem van Ormen sent sideways. And that was Damien Pavlis for Carbon Sim Sport Blue that went into the back of him. The two of them have went falling all the way back now. That's going to be 7th or 8th place. That is absolutely gutting for Jan-Willem van Ormen. He was looking so strong in 3rd place, but Boothby will be delighted with that, because that takes one of the stronger contenders from that battle as well. So now Boothby and Tauscher can settle and fight with themselves now. But that also means that Boothby has to back off Tauscher a little bit more. But Tauscher back into the lead of the race, and significantly 0.6 of a second. But again, look at the speed that this McLaren has got, Andy.
Yeah, that was a really important middle sector for Tauscher. He had to try and get away from the McLaren in the technical part. As we know, sectors 1 and 3 here at Spa are all about horsepower and straight line speed, and that clearly is where the McLaren is a little bit stronger. Now, we're on board with Boothby into the chicane. Make sure you get your braking point right this time, George. Yeah, that was nice. He was quicker through there, actually, than Tauscher. Boothby then with a good exit there across the start-finish line they go, and up towards the first corner. But George Boothby is close enough, I think, here, isn't he, to do what he did a lap ago. He's a similar distance back from the Porsche as he was one lap earlier, and we saw what happened then. He managed to get alongside into Les Combes. If he can stop the car this time, he could get back into the race lead.
Yeah, because also he doesn't have to worry about Jan Willem van Ommen, because if you remember last time round, he was also defending quite heavily, and Jan Willem van Ommen getting the double toe there. We've got all hell breaking loose at the final chicane. That was the 32 of Chris Hartveld in the GTWR R8G Academy that was caught up in that one, and this is just absolutely awesome to watch. A couple of comments on YouTube about their you know, it's a 90-minute race, Andy. They're driving like this. Normally, I'd be the first to get on my soapbox and complain about driving standards, but with it being the final race of the season, absolutely have at it, lads. Have at it. Let's just enjoy this one. And yeah, I've got to say though, Boothby still keeping Tauscher well in tow here. I'm very surprised by that.
Yeah, absolutely, but he didn't get alongside that time, did he? So I wonder whether now Tauscher might be able to get his head down and pull away. I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. That all of that chaos on the previous lap was triggered by the aggressive move by Boothby to try and get the lead, and then as he rejoined, it sort of backed everyone up. And in most races, every other race this season, Boothby would never have tried that move. He'd have just settled in behind Tauscher, worked with him to get a gap, and we wouldn't have had that sort of situation happen so early in the race. But you're right, there's a championship on the line. He had to go for it, and I absolutely don't blame him one little bit. Now, we did see that spin though, didn't we, from the 38 Aston Martin. He was tapped into the spin by the McLaren. Both of those two cars, number 7 and number 38, are in contention for this third place in the championship, so that has significance. The 71 car that we're seeing on screen now, driven by Felix Rupert, is one of the beneficiaries of that, because this car is third in the points right now, and they will have loved seeing two of their rivals for that position in the wars early on.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you don't want to see this early in the race if you're a teammate. I can imagine the frustration levels very, very high on the old voice chat as we see more cars going wide into the final chicane though, but it is still Tauscher from Boothby, from Sasha Glatter, Uniself Linen and Grip Hacks Engineering. It's then Killian Ryan Meenan, Felix Rupert, Callie Atkins, Jan Willem van Ommen, Andre Mitchell and Damien Pavlis. That is your top 10 just now. Look at Boothby though, he is still very, very close behind Tauscher as they come up through Eau Rouge and Radion, but I've got a feeling, I think he is a bit closer this time. I think he might be able to try and make the move coming up into to Les Combes. They're already coming up into lap traffic. That's going to be the number 17 Pulse Sim Sport. And around the outside goes Boothby. Surely not. What a move. He's going to try and get it in. There's contact. That was close, Andy.
Blimey, I jumped down in my seat there. I really thought the Porsche was off into the barriers then. That could have been disastrous. But yeah, Boothby was a tenth closer that time, and it was just enough for him to get alongside. If he can stay within half a second coming out of La Source, then that should put him close enough to attack every time up to the top of the hill. But he's having trouble getting that McLaren wound up, isn't he? I wonder, David, if they've gone for a lower downforce setting on that McLaren, because it's really struggling in the middle sector. He's struggling in the braking zones. 2 or 3 times now we've seen him outbrake himself. But he's really good down the straight, so interesting there. I wonder if that is what's going on.
It could very well possibly be. Just watching Nick Babin, that was a little bit unfortunate. Well, yeah, that's just unfortunate. To be honest, though, I think the 125 was already spinning halfway down the corner before he got collected there. So I think just somebody unfortunate enough to get caught up in his own accident. And this is the trouble time now for George Boothby, because look at that, Michael Tauscher now 0.8 of a second ahead, and that is going to be a car just up in front of him. As I said, that's the number 17. Let's go to another replay. This is going to be Florian Becker. He just gets an absolute nudge from the rear end there and can't really do anything. Caught by another car there, and wow, that is frightening. We've seen accidents like that happen in real life in GT3 racing, and your heart is always in your mouth. You're nothing more than a passenger. And look at this, Tauscher getting held up a little bit by that number 17 Pulse Sim Sport machine just up in front of him. Andy, 10 minutes into the race, and it's been a bit wild.
A bit wild, yeah, very wild indeed. But it does look now like Tauscher is stretching his legs. I know he's got this traffic ahead of him, but he's further ahead now, 0.8 of a second ahead at the moment. 15-second time penalty then for car number 7. Not a huge surprise there for Damien Powell as for the contact that he had with Jan Willem van Ommen in the number 38 Aston Martin. The Aston Martin is ahead on the road at the moment in 8th place, but a 15-second time penalty being given to the McLaren. Boothby and his McLaren getting a bit sideways there through Les Combes, and we're going to get another replay of, I believe this is the contact we just saw going up through Eau Rouge. I mean, there is never an excuse for making contact through this sequence of corners. The Aston Martin gets a run, yes, but you can't drive through the Porsche, and that's exactly what they tried to do. And you can see the Lamborghini there, the 96 getting a piece of that. One of the McLarens comes steaming in, and yeah, that is a blind corner, that right-hand kink at the top of the hill, and everyone coming through there at VMAX has no time to react, and unfortunately, as you quite rightly said, David, those sort of incidents are not unheard of.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we've just seen unfold there, right on that opening lap there. 1 hour and 20 minutes left to go. We're 10 minutes into this final Sprint Cup Season 4 race here on the SimGrid. Boothby is trying to catch up to Tauscher. That is the number 17 Pulse Sim Sport of Jonathan Seville. And if you really didn't want to see anything, and I can imagine that Boothby definitely didn't want to see that. But I don't think that Seville actually held him up too much. I think it was just a case that he needed to try and get out of the way. But Tauscher now starting to light the afterburners, and is starting to stretch away with 1.4 of a gap.
Yeah, I think it will have cost Boothby maybe a tenth or so there, if nothing else, just through the dirty air that's produced by running behind another car. And the trouble is he can't afford to drop a tenth or so. We know the Porsche is quick over the lap, and Boothby really needs to keep that pressure on. Here's the contact that Paulus has just been penalised for. Then he's up the curb, he's on the inside, and then, yeah, fairly straightforward that he drifts out to the right. He tags the back of the Aston Martin. In fairness, Van Ommen did a really good job to save that, actually. I think he leant on the barriers a bit to straighten the car up, but that could have actually been a lot worse. And I think it was Sasha Glatter, wasn't it, that got a little bit of a piece of that, but the 81 car's pace doesn't really seem to have been affected too much. Bentley then on the attack here. This is Callie Atkins in the Omega G Performance Bentley. Now, these two cars are very close together. They are 1 point apart in the championship, these two, for third place in the Aston Martin's favour, but Atkins on the attack, goes to the inside and moves ahead going into Les Combes. That could be significant.
Could be. Gets the car stopped as well. That was a really good move from Atkins. Seemed nice and planted there. This is on the final chicane then. This is the R8WG Academy car, and Chris Hartveld's just tapped around and rather rudely escorted off to the infield there. Got to give him credit though, kept on the brakes, waited until there was a proper gap to rejoin, so well done for doing that. Just going back to that incident with Damien Pavlos and Jan Willem van Ommen, I do feel a little bit bad for Damien, because in the number 7 car, it's not like he dived for a gap that wasn't there. What actually happened is he had two wheels on the curb, which actually floats the car out even more than it would if you weren't on them, and the car just drifts into that other car in front of him. So it wasn't meant in any way whatsoever, but still 100%. That's a bona fide penalty any day of the week. So we saw that one coming, and I'm pretty sure Damien would have done as well.
Yeah, it always feels bad, doesn't it, when a penalty is given for something that clearly wasn't intentional, but yeah, unfortunately, still the right decision, I think. Josh Inman here, then, we're on board with in the number 94 McLaren, and he's got Harry Spears there in the 285 Side Max Motorworks Mercedes right ahead of him then. That car, I think, is the one that headbutted a spinning McLaren, didn't it, in that melee up through Radion, so no doubt the Mercedes is running a little bit wounded. Runs off the track there as it comes out of the right-hander and up through Corporal Frere, and the McLaren now utilising its straight line speed advantage that we've seen from George Boothby already to power around the outside, and I'd imagine that Inman can turn in at Blanchimont. Yes, he can, and that means that he's made the move stick immediately. So damage, you can see the damage to the Mercedes. That no doubt made the move a little bit easier, but still no doubting the performance of those McLarens in a straight line.
Oh, the drive-through penalty to car 100 for avoidable contact on the 111. That is the elferspot.com. That is the incident at Radion, so it's a drive-through for car 100. We do have another car off at Radion. That was the number 17 Pulse Simsport of Jonathan Seville that we saw getting overtaken by the leaders, so I'm hoping that wasn't an incident involving any of them. Interesting to note as well, Andy, gap between the leader and second place between Taisha and Boothby just coming down ever so slightly there as Josh Inman under attack now. The number 94 fighting it out with Arthur Cernacki. Cernacki just goes round him like he wasn't even moving at all. That is a great move there. But I've got a feeling because Inman was fighting with Harry Spears earlier on, so this might be Cernacki just taking the place back, or actually taking that for position. Either way, Cernacki is on a charge right now.
Yeah, got a much better run through Eau Rouge and Radion, didn't he? And that just was converted into more straight line speed. There's more than one way to get a good straight line speed, isn't there? You can either have a good engine or good aero, or just come off the corners really well, and that's what the Ferrari did. And you can see now in the middle sector, it is starting to pull away. The Ferrari looks pretty rapid actually here, doesn't it? We've got two Ferraris inside the top 10. Jonas Savolainen is fourth, and Marco Bischoff rounds out the top 10 right now. So the Ferrari is running pretty well here at Spa, despite the fact actually it's got 25 kilos of ballast on board. So you wouldn't expect that maybe, but it is a good chassis, that 488, and it's being shown to be pretty potent here at Spa at the moment. Drive-through penalty then already showing for the number 100, and if you're playing drive-through bingo, just move one spot further up your entry list and you can now apply one to number 99, because that is a drive-through penalty going to the 99 car of Milani down in 22nd place for not holding the brakes. Not holding the brakes, David, one of my biggest bugbears in sim racing, and I think that's actually the first penalty we've seen for that this season, but it's not too uncommon across sim racing, is it?
Yeah, that's for me. That is an instant alt F4 on that one, because there's just no need for it whatsoever. Appealable if it's a case of you've held the brakes, you can prove that your brakes were held. But given that our stewards have access to all the onboard telemetry, it's a pretty sort of open and shut case. So yeah, no need for it, and really annoying. Right, let's get involved in a little bit of YouTube chat just now, because David Heavey is suggesting, and I'm going to throw this one open to you, Andy. At this level, you should be able to give it all without killing others, don't you think? Well, what's your opinions on that, Andy? Do you think that just because you're racing, top level sim racers, that incidents magically disappear?
Not really, no, because we see pro sim racers who are getting paid good money to do this crash sometimes as well, don't we? But, I think the incidents in particular that we were discussing there at the start of the race, particularly the Paulus and Van Ommen contact, which I think is roughly what triggered that comment. Honestly, that was all caused just by Boothby and Tauscher running side by side a little bit harder than they normally would. And they didn't do anything wrong. Boothby and Tauscher, they never touched, not really. They weren't driving dirty. It was aggressive driving for two drivers that are fighting for a championship. Fortunately, that happened to back up the rest of the pack and had a knock-on effect where drivers were then running a bit closer together on cold tyres than they normally would. So I really don't think it was caused by overly aggressive driving. It was just an unfortunate series of events. And yeah, unfortunately, anywhere there is racing, be it sim or real, there will be accidents. And I think to try and say that driving standards are poor in the Sprint Cup is not really factually correct, because I've been massively impressed with what I've seen so far this season.
Well, given that we're talking about real life and we've got you on, I think we'll maybe stay away from talking about driving standards. That would probably be the safer thing to do after this season. But Marco Bischoff still on the tail end of Damien Pavlicen in the 991, trying to hunt down the number 7 Carbon Simsport Blue machine. And Damien's going to be absolutely furious right now, you've got to think, because both him and Jan were so far up. They were third and fourth, and this could have been a very, very different race at this early stage. They still may very well make their way back up, Andy, but it's little bits like that that define a season, isn't it?
Yeah, you always get to the end of a season and look back and think, what if? What if we hadn't had that spin? What if we hadn't had that penalty? And it does all add up as you go through the season, doesn't it? And Marco Bischoff here in the 991 car, definitely they'll have had thoughts like that over the course of the season, because this car has been quick on occasion, but just a little bit too accident prone. They've had 3 top 10 finishes over the season, but then they have also had a 27th place finish at Misano and a 28th at Bathurst, so inconsistency really has rather been their problem. But they're running strongly again here, up behind Damien Powless, who, remember, has this 15-second penalty to serve at the pit stop as well for the contact he had at this corner with Van Ommen. So a bit frustrating this for Bischoff, because he's technically ahead of the McLaren on corrected times, but the McLaren is still physically getting in his way and holding him up. So Bischoff is going to have to try and force the issue here, I think, if he's to utilise that clear air ahead of him.
Absolutely, I think that's going to happen, and I think the frustration is going to settle in. We've seen it a couple of times actually from Marco Bischoff in the Garage 991 machine powered by Equipper, where he really wants to have that patience, but it just doesn't happen, and eventually there's like a little nudge or a little push here and there. For the most part right now, though, you've got to say that while he's got Marco on his tail, Damien Pavlis, though, is not a slow driver by any stretch of the imagination, and doing a great job. In fact, we mentioned about not holding the brakes, Andy. There's another one of my bugbears right now from Marco, flashing the lights to the car in front when they're on the same lap. I think personally that needs to be a penalty offence, but on the inside, and look, that is a perfect example of what Bilbo Swaggins has just said on YouTube chat there. That was a perfect example of hard but fair racing.
Yeah, that was a peach of a move. I think it caught Bischoff almost off guard. I don't think he expected Powless to leave the door open, but when he did, he needed no second invitation but to go through. This then is the fight for fourth place. Jonas Savalainen has got the pink Aston Martin of Killian Ryan Meenan on his tail, and then that big Bentley of Callie Atkins, which is slowly now looking like the strongest contender for third place in the championship, isn't it? Because it's running P5, it's running ahead of the likes of 71 and 38, and if it can gain another couple of positions, that would further solidify that position then, as behind, Bischoff is back up the inside there of Powless, and I think he is now about to move through into ninth spot with another good move there into Les Combes. So interesting battles going on wherever you look here. Also, David, worth making a mention here of that lead gap. It grew to about a second and a half, and then it sort of stayed there, so Tauscher can't break any further away from Boothby. And remember what happened at Zandvoort. It was a slow pit stop for the 992 car, and that was all that it took to put the McLaren ahead. So this ain't over yet for UKOG 47. If they can stay that sort of distance behind, again, they're keeping the pressure on going towards that pit window.
Yeah, and they actually did their personal best on that last lap there, so they're really, really hanging everything out to dry with that car as best they can. But the problem with that is that Sasha Clatter is 3.5 seconds behind them right now with a 15-second time penalty. So realistically, is Unisalv Leinen going to be in third place, who's about 5.5 seconds behind this battle for first and second place there. So given that Tauscher needs to drop all the way down, it is going to have to be something bad happening with a back marker or a really, really bad pit stop. But, I mean, fair's fair, and we've got to give credit where it's due, as we see Killian Ryan Meenan trying to go right the outside of the Grip Hacks engineering of Unisalv Leinen, gets the inside. That, again, hard but firm but fair. Maybe not so much that. I'm not a big fan of forcing cars off to the runoff area there, but Unisalv Leinen is going to try and have the inside there. Oh, that was just a case of Ryan Meenan closing the door, goes wide, and he's cost himself rather dearly. I think that previous scene was brought to you by the word karma.
Yes, what goes around comes around and all that. It's bringing Van Ommen back into play though, isn't it? And that's significant for the Bentley. So Atkins needs to try and clear the Ferrari here. Now that Ferrari is pretty potent in a straight line, but the Bentley, we know, he has a good engine underneath it as well. It's closing in the slipstream, this for fourth position I should say then, and Callie Atkins trying to clear the Ferrari, break away from its championship rivals. This is a brave move. The outside of the right hander though gives him the inside for the left, gives the Ferrari a hip and shoulder. It's tough to go side by side through there. The Bentley goes through, the Aston Martin goes through, the other Aston Martin will go through as well, and Jonas Savalainen got a bit mugged there, didn't he? He was fighting so hard to keep hold of one place. He ended up losing 3. Oh, that's a tough one to call. There was definitely contact. What are your thoughts?
There's contact. Do you know what? I'll allow it. That was what they call in ice hockey a hip check. That's perfectly. I've got no idea if the stewards will say that's perfectly legal, but in my book, on the final race, yeah, that was all's fair in love and war. But we'll see what the stewards say about that. What a race, though. I mean, and again, Andy, it's brilliant to see that even down for what's this, 5th, 6th, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th and 8th place, that we're all still fighting like it's the final lap of the race. And apart from that contact there, that was one of the cleanest moves I think I've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. Side by side through Les Combes is hard to do. It's a really tight section there. It's quite low grip, I find, as well as you go through that corner. For whatever reason, it doesn't matter what sim I'm on, there always seems to be a bit less grip at that end of the circuit, and it's the same on ACC. So, yeah, to run side by side through there, and then the Bentley ended up over the curb, you know, yeah, a little bit of side-to-side contact is kind of to be expected, but Savalainen's pace has really dropped off, hasn't it? He did look a bit like the cork in the bottle when he was ahead of this group, and now look, Van Ommen is on his tail, so the 38 Aston Martin moving up to challenge 2, so 2 Aston Martins have passed him already, and a third one on the way. And again, Van Ommen needs to try and get some more points here, because he arrives still with a chance at 3rd place in the championship. It really has sort of divided itself, this race, quite nicely, hasn't it? You've got the top 2 in the championship running 1st and 2nd, and then in this next group you've got a whole host of teams looking to try and secure 3rd in the championship. They're all together as well, so I think it's going to give us plenty to talk about for the remaining hour and 4 minutes, this, isn't it?
It absolutely is, and as you said, 64 minutes left to go. We are about 10 minutes away, 15 minutes actually, from our pit window opening. It opens at 40 minutes into the race, at which point drivers come in, swap over to their teammates, get possibly a little bit of tyres, and yeah, it's so many variables are going to be talked about, I think, in the next 50 minutes, so we'll leave that until then. But George Boothby now 2.2 seconds behind Teicher in random passable racing. Andy, it's looking solid for random passable, and in all intents and purposes this kind of sums up their season, doesn't it?
Yeah, they qualify well, they get the lead, they disappear up the road, and they lead every lap and they take the checkered flag. I mean, we've seen this somewhere before, haven't we? But I don't know, there's still something telling me there's another twist in this story before the hour is up. That is Sheldon Muscat getting involved in some robust racing. Now, if the contact we saw earlier on between Omega G Performance and the Gripax Engineering car was a hip check, I think that was a body slam, wasn't it? And that might well be looked at by the stewards. That was a little bit rough for my liking. The Bentley went through, but I doubt we'll be allowed to keep that position. Back to the 4th place battle. I say battle, Atkins is sort of getting away now, isn't he? He's getting away from Killian Ryan Meenan, who's trying his best to stay with him in the slipstream. Felix Rupert then is 6th, 7th Jonas Savalainen, 8th Jan Willem van Ommen, 9th Marco Bischoff, and 10th for Damien Paulus. So Paulus is still inside the top 10 then, but of course does still have that penalty to serve a little bit later on. We're almost 30 minutes into this, David. I don't know where the time's gone. It's been quite an entertaining first third of the race, hasn't it?
It's been absolutely brilliant. Really, really enjoyed it. And to be honest, this is exactly what we've had all through the season. Thrill, spills and drama galore. And as always, if you want to get yourself involved, get and join on the SimGrid. Head over to thesimgrid.com and get yourself signed up to one of the many championship races that are taking place, as well as all of the different platforms that they are getting involved with now, no longer confined to just ACC. They are really, really stretching the wings. Keep your eyes out on the news for more details of that. As always, a huge thank you as well to our commercial partners over at the likes of Coach Dave Academy, where you can get some prime esports ready setups for a range of platforms. I think they're now doing iRacing. I spotted. I'm going to have to go and try that out. As we see Chris Hartveld having a look at the inside of the 728 of Leonardo Poco and 11th place. But again, Chris Hartveld, another fast driver who's going to feel that he's been put in a position where he really doesn't need to be right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Hartveld will be frustrated at the contact, couple of bits of contact now that he's had. He had that other one with Muscat, didn't he? So he's back ahead of Muscat then. That's interesting. Leonardo Porco in front of him in that Porsche. Now the Ferrari should be pretty even to the Porsche through the middle sector, you'd say, but maybe a little bit faster up those straights, certainly with a bit of a slipstream. So a little bit of patience here for Hartveld. I think his chance is coming. You can see the extra speed that he carries there through Pouhon, through the second apex as well. There's just a little bit of lag there maybe for the Porsche, just making it difficult to gauge exactly what that gap is. And it's, something like that can lead to a bit of contact sometimes when you're running this close together. It's a good run there, out of Piff Paff now, down into the two right-handers at the top end of the, or the bottom end of the circuit, I should say, through Campus, and then into Corporal Frere, and then the run up through Blanchimont. Now let's see what speed that Ferrari's got in a straight line. The rear engine traction of the Porsche gets Porco off the right-handers a little bit quicker, but the Ferrari now has the slipstream, and let's see if he can bring that gap down. He's going to be close to striking range, I think, when they get to the chicane, isn't he?
I think he is, actually. I think you're absolutely spot on with that, but it's all about the consistency of the pace, and Hartveld looks like he's got a bit of a run here in that Ferrari all round to the back of the Porsche. But again, it's one thing catching up, it's another to get past that car in front completely. That is the issue that we're going to find with all of the drivers here tonight. Half an hour has come and gone in the final race for the Sprint Cup Season 4. And what a race we have been treated to. It's still Michael Teicher in the lead from George Boothby, currently putting the final stamps on the championship, as it were. But there's still 60 minutes in which that could all change. Sasha Glatter in third place, Callie Atkins in fourth, Killian Ryan Meenan in fifth, Felix Rupert in sixth position, Jonas Salvalainen in seventh, Jan Willem van Ommen in eighth position, Marco Bischoff in ninth, and Damien Pavlis in 10th position. Both Sasha Glatter and Damien Pavlis in the top 10 have got 15-second penalties to serve at their pit stops just now. So we are about 9 minutes away, Andy, from pit stops coming into effect. How do you see that shaping things up and shaking things?
Well, I mean, the timing of the pit stop is one thing, and then the execution of the pit stop is the other. And I think the problem for Random Pastable last time was that they didn't line themselves up in that pit box quite right, and that can cost you a couple of seconds. Here, by the way, is what the standings look like, and I can confirm, as I suspected then, Random Pastable would be nearly 30 points to the good. And that would give them the championship victory. Now, for third place, though, it's all getting quite tight. Omega have moved into that third place, but by just 3 points over XL Racing by Renvelton. So if that 71 car picks up 2 more places, it would move back into P3 in the championship. They are starting to distance themselves slightly now from the likes of Gripax Engineering, Dalkin Community and FFS Sendipoos, but a long way to go. And all of those cars that I mentioned are running together inside the second half of the top 10. But yeah, you're right, David, the pit stops will be critical here. For the leaders, I think it is all about, as far as UKOG are concerned, just hoping and praying for a mistake for the Random Pastable squad when they come in, as happened last time at Zandvoort. For those that are in this third place squabble in the championship, though, they're close enough to each other on the track that maybe an undercut could be the way to go. That's an overcut there, if anything, for the Ferrari of Hartveld. Goes around the outside of the first part of the chicane, gets the inside for the left-hander. Porco goes so far off the track, he's almost in the pit lane entry, and still holds on to the position. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I think maybe the Ferrari had pretty much got that move made. It might have now anyway, because the Porsche runs wide at La Source, and they're going to run wheel to wheel down towards Eau Rouge. This is difficult to do. Someone's going to have to give, and it's Hartveld that in the end that does the sensible thing and backs off.
For how long, though, that is the question, because he's right on the tail. And this is the battle for P8 then. This is Jan Willem van Ormen, and it's all the way down then as Marco Bischoff takes that position in the Ferrari and gets the job done. Back to Chris Hardfeld then, side by side on the run down to Lecombe as the Porsche tries to force it out wide. But again, respectful racing for the most part here as Chris Hardfeld takes the inside line. That's going to hand Leonardo Porco the inside line, but he can't get the traction out. And look at Sheldon Muscat. I said about Sheldon Muscat, let's pray that the lad gets a good race tonight, and I'll certainly say 13th place. That is definitely a turn of fortune for the number 36 GT Omega RPM esports driver, doing very, very well. 56 minutes left to go. And Andy, this little battle for 10th, 11th and 12th position here, they are doing really, really well, but they're getting dropped from the likes of Unisalv Leinen and Marco Bischoff.
Yeah, but there's a bit less pressure on these guys' shoulders. They're not fighting for any meaningful championship positions. They're just trying to end the season on a high, and for some of them, an opportunity maybe to get a season best finish. You mentioned Sheldon Muscat there, running in 13th at the moment. Well, that car's best result so far is an 11th place finish, last time out actually, at Zandvoort. So again, this is what happens, David. You miss a race, and that's the race that Muscat actually had a decent run of it. So 11th place could be bettered here, though, with some of the penalties coming to the cars ahead of them. So they should leapfrog ahead of the number 7 McLaren and that number 32 Ferrari, shouldn't they? So he could better his best finish of the year of the season so far. But he'd like to get past them on track, if at all possible, as they work their way through the chicane, which officially is not called the bus stop anymore, which I was disheartened to discover on a trip to Spa earlier on this season. I know it's no longer bus stop shaped, but it was still a little bit sad to see they've officially changed their name now just to chicane, which is altogether a lot less imaginative. But anyway, I digress. They head through La Source, and I'm just keeping an eye on this fight for top 5 championship positions, and that position that we saw Dalkin Community losing, the number 38 car, that puts them now an extra 2 points away from scoring prize money. They're 8 points now behind Gripax Engineering for that 5th place in the championship. So the more ground that Van Ormen loses, the less chance they've got of scoring some prize money.
Man, that's a big bottle of Jaeger that could be bought with that $80. I tell you, that if that is not motivation to get that position back, then I don't know what is, Andy. I tell you. 54 minutes left to go in the race. We're watching Felix Repair here in the 71 car, the XL Racing by Renfeldt Machine, trying to hunt down Killian Ryan Meenan in that Treble FFS Sendipus, who has teamed up with the legend himself, Mr. James Parker, who will be able to absolutely throttle that Aston Martin to within an inch of its life in just the next 13 minutes. He'll be out on track by as well. Keeping an eye on the leaders as well. That gap is 2.7 seconds now, so it really is starting to go. I wonder as well if the McLaren, because of the pace that he had in the beginning, Andy, I wonder if he's taken too much out of his tyres too early.
Possibly, although I'm hearing, I think, that on the previous lap he was a fraction quicker, but we're dealing in tenths and hundredths of a second here, really, aren't we? It's not like they're taking big chunks out of the Porsche. But yeah, I mean, you wouldn't blame them for going for quite an aggressive race setup, would you? That maybe takes a bit more out of the tyres in the early stages, because like we said at the start of the race, that was their best chance to try and get ahead of Tauscher and try and put Random Pastable a bit further down the order. So yeah, kind of made sense to do that. UKOG 47, they were always going to have to roll the dice here. That was always going to be their strategy, I think. And yeah, maybe that is something they went for. The gap is now, as you said, bigger than it's been at any point so far in the race. This gap, though, is smaller than it's been for quite some time between the two Aston Martins. Killian Ryan Meenan only half a second or so clear of Felix Repair, and this, again, has championship significance. The 71 car needs to make progress if it's to move from 4th to 3rd in the championship, but of course the 888 car is only 8 points away from finishing in the top 5 itself, so they want some prize money. They've got their eye on that bottle of Jaeger, and they're not going to want to give this place up without a fight.
Hello, Callie Atkins. I see you on the timing screen, setting the fastest lap of the race with about 16 laps in the books. 2:18.123 for the number 340 Omega E-Racing team driver, who'll shortly be handing over the reins of that Bentley to Giuseppe Montalbano. Well, what an exciting first stage of the race we've had. It's still got another, 2 minutes to go before we open up the pit window. Then it'll go a little bit crazy as cars decide to come in left, right and centre for their pit stop, and then it'll be time to knuckle down. But this is the real danger point for the 992, as you pointed out, Andy. Last time at Zandvoort, they will have that in their mind. They will be very, very aware of how it all went wrong for them in pit lane. What do you think they'll have done different for them?
I mean, it's definitely going to be on their mind, isn't it, though? That's the thing, because you make a mistake like that and you think, oh, okay, well, we'll learn from that. I've done it myself a lot of times in ACC. You come into the pit lane, it's quite hard to know actually where the sim wants you to stop, especially running with the cockpit view, as they will be, I'm sure. So it's an easy mistake to repeat that, especially if it's playing on their mind. Callie Atkins, though, not making any mistakes here, is he? Because he's right up behind Sasha Glatter. He will clear the Aston Martin in the pit stops anyway, because Glatter's got this solo driver penalty, but, well, none of that matters really, because the Bentley just steams round the outside and moves into a podium place. And with that move, scores themselves an extra 4 championship points, extending their margin now in third place in the championship. It did stand at 3 points. It will now be creeping up towards double figures. So a very, very important move, and a brilliant move, I must say, around the outside into the chicane. That takes some bravery. Nicely done.
Not to take anything away from Callie, but I do think Sasha decided not to fight that as much as they possibly could have, and possibly let off the accelerator a little bit earlier. Probably just noticing that it was the 15-second time penalty, and there's no point fighting that as they need to. Or alternatively, just deciding to get behind Callie Atkins, knows that they've got more pace in that car, and deciding to use that to their advantage and try and slipstream them round the course. So here we go then. Pit stop window is now open. Hello, Michael Tauscher. 2:18.108, fastest lap of the race, even. But that is just 2/100ths of a second faster than Callie Atkins there. So yeah, cracking lap. But it sounds good, but in realistic terms, it's about a tenth off of what a lot of people are doing.
Doesn't that just sum up Random Pasta Bowl season, though? Every time someone else looks like they're stealing a bit of the limelight, they just have to come and snatch it back and make sure that everyone's watching them. You know, they couldn't just let Callie Atkins have that fastest lap for a moment or two. The very next lap, they came through and bettered it. Of course, the fuel is starting to drain now. The cars are getting quicker as we go into the race. The track is also rubbering up, you'd imagine, after that rain during qualifying earlier on. So not a surprise that we're seeing some improvements, but you're right, they don't really need to be pushing that hard. They can, and they're just sort of flexing their muscles a bit now, just to put off any hope that, especially George Boothby, might have of closing in and challenging before the pit window. Back to another one of the Bentleys then, another one of the GT Amiga cars, and this is Sheldon Muscat, still stuck behind the Porsche of Leonardo Porco. And where is Chris Hartveld? Remember, Hartveld got past the Porsche only a couple of laps ago. He's already nearly 5 seconds off into the distance. That shows how much the Porsche is starting to fade away here and really holding Muscat up. Now, can he go to the outside into the bus stop? Can he even go to the inside? Because that line is not defended by the Porsche, but Sheldon, sensibly from that distance, decides not to go for it and waits for a better opportunity, which won't come because they both go into the pit lane absolutely at the same time. So too, significantly, David, though, are 2 of our P3 contenders, aren't they? Rupert and Van Ommen, both in.
Yeah, I think they've got a good chance of leapfrogging quite a bit here as we see the Bentley. I don't think that Bentley could be any closer to that Porsche if it tried. This is Damien Pavlis, though, for Carbon Sims for Blue in the number 7 McLaren. Always amazes me just how much they can cut the corner coming up through Radion. That left-hander there. It almost seems like they just cut the entire corner out completely as Bischoff just got absolutely an amazing move there around the outside of Unisov line, and that was brilliant stuff here, as I believe this is Sheldon Muscat and Leonardo Porco still going through the pit lane. They're coming down to the bottom there. 47 minutes left to go in the race here. We're still waiting on the top 10 heading into the pits. Do you think, Andy, that it's a case of, for the likes of Teicher and Boothby, waiting to see who the first one is to blink?
Yeah, I think whatever one does, the other will react to. If I were George Boothby, as much as I'd like to stay in the car and get my money's worth, so to speak, I think I'd be wanting to come in early, just try and, get some fresh tyres on, get the undercut, at least try and get that gap back down a little bit, and, try and beat the Porsche to the jump. I'd be pitting this time, to be honest, because we're almost, near as damn it, halfway through now, 46 and a half minutes or so to go. I'd be pitting this time, making sure I get in before the Porsche does, and then I'm sure that Tauscher will react if he feels that that's necessary. But you've also got to try and work out, though, and this is something that the team members who aren't in the sim at the time will be trying to work out, where are you going to drop out into the traffic? The last thing you want to do is pit, stick some fresh tyres on, and come back out in the middle of a battle of cars that haven't yet stopped, which are going to be running significantly slower than you and holding you up. So they'll be trying to figure that out as they go. Callie Atkins has pitted, interestingly, from third place now. Max Vollmuth, we're seeing here, is in the number 71 car. This is the lead car of those that have stopped, and this is the car that is battling with that 340 Bentley for third place in the championship at the moment. So this is an important outlap now for Vollmuth, isn't it, to try and get back on terms with the Bentley.
Yeah, it's all about getting as much speed as you possibly can into those tyres and as much heat, but without overworking them, managing to try and hold on to as much of the life of those tyres as they possibly can. I think, honestly, that's what's happened to George Boothby, is he had that amazing start in the McLaren and just took a little bit too much out of his tyres in the beginning, and the past 5-10 laps he's really been struggling as we head into lap number 20 very shortly. Your race leaders just coming through. Let's have a look where they are just now. They're through Bruel on the run down to Double Gauche and then into Lafagna very shortly indeed. But a cracking race so far, Andy. This is everything that we could have hoped for in the championship. It would be a shame to see a mistake or an accident cost Random Pass the Bull, especially when they've been performing at the way they have tonight, because again, it's very difficult to look past them getting their fourth win on the season.
Yeah, I would go as far as to say that if they can negotiate their pit stop cleanly, I don't think they're going to be beaten, because it's not like Maciej Malinowski's going to jump in the car and be a second off the pace, is he? He's going to be just as quick as Tauscher, so they should be. If they get back out with a sizable enough lead over the 47 car, I think they're as good as home free, pending any change of weather. But as you can see in the top right corner of the screen, the next 30-minute forecast has no rain on the way. On the inset, you're seeing the Bentley head back out onto the circuit then, and crucially, it gets out ahead of the 71 car. You can see there, going over the top of Radion is Vollmuth. And he is, even by the time the Bentley gets back up to speed, he's going to be a good second or so behind, isn't he? So, granted, the Aston Martin should be faster on this next lap, though, because it's already got its tyres up to temperature and pressure, so he could be able to apply a little bit of pressure here to Matteo Blotto. I'd be intrigued, actually, David, to see which of these two drivers is the fastest, because we've seen a bit more Bournemouth at the front this season, I'd argue, so maybe they've still got a chance to wrestle this third place in the championship away.
Well, we'll soon find out as the swathe of top 10 drivers come into the pits then. 7 out of 10 drivers into the pit lane on the second last lap in the pit stop window just now. Teicher in, Boothby in, Glatter in, Killian Ryan Meenan in, Marco Bischoff in, Damien Pavlis in, and Chris Hartfeld are in. 3 minutes 20 left to go into the window. The driver change is about to happen, and for Boothby and for Glatter, they're really going to pray for something not going right at the Random Pass the Bull camp.
Yeah, and don't forget, Glatter's got this 15-second solo driver penalty to serve as well, so it's actually the likes of Ryan Meenan and then also Blotto and Vollmuth, who are already back out on circuit, that will also be kind of hoping that the leaders stumble. But I'd love to see the pit exit as they come out. Are Random Pass the Bull going to be able to put their problems from Zandvoort 2 weeks ago to rest and come out still with the race lead. We're in the inset, nicely done. That is the on board with Tauscher, and look at who is just 2 garages further down the hill. That is the car that they're trying to beat. So if the Porsche moves before the McLaren, they should hold on to the lead of the race. The question is, what sort of margin will they have? It was up towards about 3.5 seconds, I think, wasn't it, before the pit stop happened? So down off the jacks goes the Porsche. It is a good stop. They're going to get out ahead of the McLaren, and the McLaren look in the rearview mirror still has not moved. So that answers my question. They absolutely have learnt from the mistake at Zandvoort, and that might just be the last we see of that car now, because they're going to have, if anything, David, a bigger lead now than they had before the pit window.
Yeah, that's a huge lead that they've got there, but never mind that. I'm just looking to the leaderboard there, and I believe, my fingers are crossed, I believe that the number 69 of Bastian Offerman in the BMW in the Beetle in the 69 Space Pace and Beetle SimRacing.de just briefly can take the lead of this race from last place on the grid. I don't care how it happens, I don't care why it happens, as long as I see that BMW in the lead, Andy, that is a good night for me.
It's almost unthinkable, isn't it? But a BMW won the Sprint Cup last time out. The BMW Team G2 Esports squad, they were the only BMW that did anything of interest really that season, but they did manage to win it. And this time around, we haven't had, admittedly, one of the top BMW teams, if you like, entered into the Sprint Cup, but it is a car that in the right hands can still perform really well. So I think Offerman will probably pit. Yes, he will. So we'll have to hope that he maybe gets to the start-finish line before Savalainen does, if Savalainen's pit box is before the start-finish line. But at least there we do have the BMW badge up at the top end of our leaderboard for pretty much the first time all season long. And yeah, let's hope that we can get a quick BMW team into the championship next time around, because it's a great looking car, that, and a very, very underappreciated one. I think we often hear people talking about this car, for example, the Bentley or the Aston Martin or the Porsche, but the BMW has a following of people who really are very passionate about it, and we would love to see more of them entered next time.
Absolutely. This is where you get a very over-eager social media manager taking a screenshot of the results right now, saying it's going very, very well at the halfway point in the race, when in reality, yeah, it could be better. But the pit window is about to close, and it looks like everyone has done their pit stops. Maciej Malinowski then taking the wheel of Random Pastable, and that gap has gone up from 3 seconds to 6.4 seconds, and more importantly, the 340 of Omega E Racing team of Giuseppe Montalbano has done the jump in the pits and is up essentially into 3rd place now, and not too far behind Niels van der Kekkel, about 7 seconds. And yeah, brilliant job from that 340 team. But that's it, really, isn't it? It's all done and dusted for the 992 team, with 40 minutes left to go, or certainly so it would seem.
You learnt nothing of your years of commentating, David. We do not give this to the team yet, because as soon as we say something like that, you know that something bad's going to happen to them. It's not called the curse of the commentator for no reason. So I'm going to keep my powder dry on that one for the time being, until I see this car cross the line in 39 minutes time as the race leader. I'm not going to be calling them the champions just yet, but you're not wrong. They're looking in a very good position at the moment, aren't they? 6.5 seconds or so. The gap came down slightly in that first sector, as you'd expect. I'll be watching with interest the lap times over the next 10 minutes, though, just in case Niels van der Kekkel in that 47 car has anything for Malinowski. But even if he does, he's got to bridge a 6.5 second gap. That's going to take life out of his tyres, out of his brakes, out of the driver as well. And then he's got to try and do something about passing the Porsche. So, yeah, certainly it is Random Pastable's race to lose as it stands. But we've seen it happen in the past, haven't we? So, yeah, who knows what the next 38 minutes have in store for us. And we've still got this fight for 3rd in the points to keep us entertained in the meanwhile.
I'm saying absolutely nothing. I'm just enjoying trying to make things spicy. What can I say? But Maciej Malinowski, we know the pace that he has got. We are only too aware of the consistency that Maciej Malinowski has as well. And Niels van der Kekkel, I've been a little bit disappointed this season because it's been a little bit up and down for the number 47 UKOG driver in that second stint for him just now. He comes across the line, the gap is up to 7.4 seconds, and Maciej Malinowski fires in a huge lap there, 2:17.646, fastest lap of the race. And Van de Kekelt, this is what I was saying, 2:18.5. And look at that though, Blotto in third place. Matteo Blotto does a 2:17.7 and the 2:17s as well as James Parker. So I've got to be honest, if Niels van de Kekelt can't get the pace up in the next couple of laps, we could see that car fighting for third place.
Yeah, because the Bentley is coming, isn't it? And it seems to have got the better of Max Vollmuth just about, although these two are actually pretty even, aren't they? The Bentley and the Aston Martin. But yeah, you're right, and that could be significant, because actually, as it stands, Blotto doesn't need to gain any more places as far as his championship position is concerned. He's doing enough to take third place in the points. At the moment, they would be 3 points ahead of the XL Racing by Renvelt and Aston Martin, which is the next car behind of Max Vollmuth, 1.4 seconds back. So in a way, the last thing that Blotto wants here is to get involved in a scrap with the McLaren, but you're absolutely right. The way they're going, with still 36.5 minutes to go, they could, and indeed are quite likely, to catch the second placed car, and that might just change this dynamic as far as the Omega G Performance team are concerned, and maybe not for the better. So yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how Matteo handles that as and when he catches Van der Kelt ahead.
Absolutely, Andy. Great point there, and we'll find out in the next 35 minutes because, of course, we try not to focus too much on that lead battle. It's also, as you said, about the battles further on down the field as well. So we've got the calculators out, we've got the abacus out, the slide rules out, and I've got my fingers on my toes as well. I'm not sure how much use that is going to be because I'll probably get it wrong anyway. I learned a hard lesson doing real-life commentary, actually, doing real-life bike commentary one year because I wrongly announced the championship winner of the Scottish Bike Championship, and it turns out there was still one more round to go. So there you go, kids. That's why you don't get too excited about mathematics and what you think your rather well put together Excel spreadsheet tells you.
Well, that's your first problem, using a computer. I'm sticking to a pen and paper, I think. I do have the assistance of an Excel spreadsheet, I must admit. But yeah, that's happened to us all, David. Don't worry, you're not the only one that's... I've never announced a champion with an entire event still to spare, I must say, but I have...
What it was I had no idea that the championship actually spans, so because it's bikes, there's another circuit here in Scotland that they use at East Fortune, and I had no idea about it. So of course I'd seen that it was a final race at that circuit, and I was like, yeah, so there you go. But I think it's safe to say that we don't need calculators or abacus or any of that sort of nonsense for Maciej Malinowski, and I don't think he needs it either, because I mean the pace that he's got right now, it has dropped a little bit just now. He's gone down to a 2:18, but does he need to push it? He just needs to manage that car, manage that gap. Meanwhile, I've got to be honest, I really fancy Matteo Blotto in the 340 Omega E-Racing team because he is consistently taking time out of Niels van de Kekelt in that 47. And not only that, he's bringing Maximilian Vollmuth with him as well for that XL Racing by Renvelt. And so I hate to be devil's advocate here, but UKOG 47 could see them not only lose the championship, but lose a podium.
It's possible, and if they lose a podium, they could lose fourth, because the point you make there about Vollmuth is absolutely correct. He's not that much further back. He is half a second nearly off the pace that Blotto is running, but of course, you can see there was Vollmuth. You've got the pink Aston Martin of Parker only 2.2 seconds behind him, then 2.5 to Van Dreuten's Ferrari. So there is a whole group of cars here that could be very swiftly arriving in the wing mirrors of Niels van der Kekelt. In fact, you could just see Niels in the distance there for the first time. Matteo Blotto would have got a good look there at the car that he is hunting down. You can't miss it, can you really? That fluorescent yellow McLaren off in the distance. The gap's under 5 seconds now. He was a full second faster than him on the previous lap, and it looks like he's going to be a similar sort of margin quicker on this one as well. So across the line goes the Bentley then, and that gap coming down and down almost by the corner. Still, though, neither of these two, David, can match the pace of the race leader, who has just done another fastest lap of the race, just because he can.
Goodness me, 2:17.6. It's almost like he's watching the timing screen going, that's a nice fastest lap of the race. It'd be a shame if anyone would go even faster than that. And then he just does it anyway. So, yeah, Malinowski on absolute fire right now, taking the gap to nearly 10 seconds. But what is happening with Niels van de Kekkel? He does not have that car underneath him. He doesn't have the tyres. He is not happy and settled in that car right now, because the gap is now, 4 seconds, 4.4 seconds to Matteo Blotto in third place. It was a 2:18.6 last lap round for Niels van de Kekkel in the UK OG47, and then in the number 340 Omega E Racing team, it was a 2:17.8 for Matteo Blotto. Oh, this is starting to get very, very spicy indeed, because Maximilian Walmuth is still faster than your second place man. James Parker is actually faster than Niels van de Kekkel at this pace as well. So this is starting to get a little bit scary for my liking.
Yeah, I mean, Niels is the slowest car inside the top sort of 8 or 9, really, isn't it? So, well, yeah, the next 6 cars behind him are all lapping either quicker than him or within a couple of hundredths of a second of him. So Niels is really, really struggling. There is Sasha Glatter, by the way, having served the solo driver penalty, still in the top 10, 9th place to be precise then for the number 81 Black Hawk Racing Aston Martin. Leonardo Porco is still in the car as well. He was another who was going this solo, and so stays in 10th spot, although I'm intrigued to know how Leonardo is ahead of Chris Hartveld also stayed in the car. Never mind, I've answered my own question. Moving on, the Aston Martin then running quickly and catching actually the Dalking Aston Martin ahead. That 38 cars challenge has faded a little as well, hasn't it?
Sorry, Andy, sorry. I just, what on earth? I need you to look at your timing screens right now and tell me what the heck just happened with Maciej Malinowski. Purple lap, 2:17.289. What?
Quite quick, that, isn't it?
It's a bit on the rapid side. I mean, he's not hanging about, but not just that. Look at Matteo Blotto as well, 2:17.7. Maximilian Walmuth, 2:17.9. James Parker, 2:17.9. Niels van de Kekkel, 2:18.3. It's this is starting to get very, very spicy. The other thing I wanted to ask you, Andy, right, is we know Niels is a very calm, competent, and very, very, fair driver, but surely everyone's got to have their tipping point. Surely he's going to see these 3 cars coming up fast behind him and think, no, I'm not having this.
Do you know what? You've just stolen the words right out of my mouth. I was about to ask you the very same thing, because I think it's now a case of when, not if, Blotto catches him. How hard is Niels going to fight that, though? Because if he really decides to try and make that McLaren the widest car at Spa-Francorchamps, then Blotto's going to have a hard time getting through. He could get backed up into Walmuth and Parker, and it could cost him 3rd place in the championship. So for Blotto, he needs to catch the McLaren and pass it immediately, but I don't think Niels is going to let him do that. If nothing else, Niels will be hanging on to, clutching at straws here, thinking, well, what if random past bowl disconnect? What if they hit a back marker? What if they get a penalty? Remember, the very Bentley that is chasing down Van der Kekkel, they got a penalty at Mazzano, didn't they, for tangling with a back marker. So anything can happen here. Imagine if Malinowski got a penalty and Van der Kekkel had just rolled over and given these places away to Blotto, Walmuth and Parker. It could cost them the title. They have to hold on to 2nd place if they can, right until the death, and that might not be good news for Blotto, who's catching him.
But where has that pace gone? That's what I don't understand. We know Van der Kekkel is a fast driver. He's got so much talent, so much skill. But really, it's something has happened with either the car, the setup, the tyres, something. I mean, now he's starting to come on, 2:17.9, but still nowhere near enough, especially when Blotto does a 2:17.8 and everyone else around them still starting to catch up as well. It could be that Van der Kekkel ends up becoming almost a roadblock for maybe 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, even dare I say it, Jesse Kalpinen in 7th place.
he's listened to you complaining about his lap time, so he thought, I know what I'll do, I'll make the lap shorter and cut straight across the runoff area there at the top of Raidillon. That would definitely have been an exceeding of track limits. Just in Niels' defence though, he has just set that car's personal best lap of the race, so he's actually going quicker now than George Boothby ever was. So it's not like he's going slowly as such, it's just everybody else has picked up a bit more speed. I know the track is now, as you can see in the top right hand corner of the screen, it's in its optimum stage of grip, so it's perfectly rubbered up now before it starts getting a little bit slick. So the track is as quick as it's ever going to be now. He is sliding that McLaren around, it's not for the want of trying, but he, for whatever reason, has not picked up as much speed as the other cars around him have. This gap is now almost, well yes, it's 3.5 seconds now between himself and Blotto, so yeah, I can't tell you where the pace has gone. It's clear that this car has lost pace, and I can only imagine that it is something in the setup that's just not quite working right. Did they go for a really aggressive, low downforce, really racy setup in the hopes of getting that track position early, and are they maybe now paying the price for that?
I think they are, because that is now, what's that, about 2 seconds that Blotto, 3 seconds it is behind Niels van de Kekelt. Loving YouTube chat at the moment there. Mopar Milan says, eat pasta, get faster. I think that really does sum up Random Pastables. Masik Malarowski, when we were asking him what on earth was that all about, and yeah, I mean, look, he has got so much pace again. He's coming through the final chicane. He did a 2:17.3 that last lap round. He's gone purple again. 2:17.253. This is absurd. This is obscene, the pace that the 992 car has got. And again, Van de Kekelt does a 2:18.4 and loses 0.8 of a second to Matteo Blotto. It's done. It's that car is going backwards at a rate of knots. And I've got to be honest, he's going to be lucky if he can stay in the top 5.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree with you. It's not looking good, is it, for UKOG 47, but it couldn't look rosier for the Random Pasta Bowl squad at the moment. This is a clinic that they are putting on here. If anyone wants to know how to be a good sim racer, I think we need to upload this stint from Malinovsky, because each and every lap has been almost inch perfect, using every bit of the road available to him without ever looking particularly scrappy. Drops down the hill here into Brussels, then down into turn number 9 at Speaker's Corner, and which does have a name, by the way. Another thing I learned on my trip to Belgium is that No Name Corner does actually have a name, if nothing else, a colloquial name amongst the locals, Speaker's Corner there, because it's the only other corner that the circuit commentator, or speaker, can see from their commentary tower on the pit straight. So anyway, little history lesson for you there. Through Pouhon they go, and this car just looks absolutely on rails, as it has done at every other round this season, it must be said, but this has been a particularly crushing performance right when they needed to do it, really. They're putting themselves so far ahead of the rest of the field now that if something were to go wrong, they'd almost still be in an unbeatable position.
They really, really would. And I can't believe how this race has actually gone, Andy, because, I mean, we're 24 minutes away from the finish. We've done an hour already. Where's the time gone? But it also just, I'm thinking back to our conversation before the race where we really didn't know what to expect. And what gets me is that this is one hell of a scrap for the rest of the points on the table. So from third down the way, I mean, I don't even want to think about who is going to finish up in what position right now, especially if Van de Kekelt continues to go backwards.
Yeah, well, because every position he loses gains others championship points, of course. But yeah, I'm intrigued to see how he handles Blotto, because Blotto is actually not massively quicker than him anymore. He is lapping, you know, sort of 3 or 4 tenths a lap quicker, but he was a full second a lap quicker in the early part of the stint. So I still think he's going to get there, but he's going to have A, less time to do anything with Van de Kekelt, and also B, he might not actually have enough of a pace advantage to make that a quick and easy overtake anymore. So if Van de Kekelt starts to defend and backs Blotto up into the others, then yeah, that could 100% change around the third place in the championship, because actually if the Max Vollmuth Aston Martin were to finish third and Blotto were to finish fourth, that would lose Omega G Performance third place in the championship. That one positional loss could cost them a place in the championship race. So if they do catch the McLaren, they need to time it well and pass it pretty much immediately, otherwise Bournemouth is going to be smelling blood.
Absolutely, and that is what we are going to be keeping our eye on just now. Let's have a look at the times then. Maciej Malinowski 2:17.5 on the last lap there, 2:18.4 for Niels van de Kekel, almost exactly the same as the previous lap there. Matteo Blotto taking 0.4 of a second out. To take half a second out or 0.4 of a second out of the car in front every single lap, I mean, that's got to give Matteo Blotto and his teammates as well, some huge confidence in that car right now, because obviously Callie Atkins doing a brilliant job in getting that car up to speed, but Blotto has really shone after the pit stops.
Yeah, and I suppose Omega G Performance are going to be thinking what if as well, aren't they? What if they hadn't had that penalty at Misano when they were quids in for a victory? I think they were even further ahead in that race than Malinowski is in this one, and they tangled with that back marker, got given a drive-through penalty. It cost them only 2 positions, but it cost them 14 championship points, and probably knocked their confidence a bit as well going into the next part of the season, because their next 2 race results were only a 9th and a 14th at Kyle Army and Bathurst. So the points lost over the first half of the season have arguably cost Omega G Performance a shot at the title, ultimately, but certainly second place in the championship, because can you imagine how much more tense this would be if they'd scored those extra 14 points at Misano? They would really be in with a shot here of beating UKOG 47 to P2 in the points. For 8th place in the race, meanwhile, Darren King here under pressure from Sasha Glatter, and the number 38 Aston Martin does seem to be struggling in this phase of the race. It hasn't been able to go with the cars in that group ahead, the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th place cars that it was battling with earlier on, and instead it's going to have to start defending its 9th position, I would suspect, here going into the final part of the race. And of course, if it loses even one more place, it will lose another place in the championship as well. It currently sits 6th in the championship, just 2 points ahead of the 888 Mercedes in 8th place. So if this position changes, it will lose the 38 car one more place in the championship.
Absolute craziness. This is what I love when it comes down to the final round as well, as we see Sasha Glatter having a look up the inside of Dan King, but it's not going to happen. Certainly not there. It's just a little bit of gamesmanship. You've got to feel that far back from them just now. But yeah, brilliant stuff. And I can't get over. I mean, obviously we're watching this battle for 8th and 9th place. I'm just looking at the times that Maciej Malinowski is putting in at the front of the field, and Andy, I've got to say, I'm almost speechless at the pace and the consistency. And it's almost, and this might be a bit of a reach, and it might be, a little bit too far, but it's almost otherworldly. The talent and the pace that he has got behind the wheel of that car. It's scary to see the difference between 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and we've got to say a big shout out to James Parker. I did say that he'd be able to extract every ounce of pace from that Aston Martin, and he certainly is doing a 2:17.9 last time round. But I mean, Maciej Malinowski in that Porsche are just absolutely unbeatable right now.
Yeah, I mean, it is otherworldly. I can't do a 2:17 around Spa, and I don't know if you can, David, but I'd imagine maybe the answer is no. So, I mean, it's just astonishing for us mere mortals to jump onto ACC, and go around Spa-Francorchamps. You could give us days of pounding around this track and we wouldn't get down to a 2:17.2. So it really does go to show how good he is, but also how good the team are. They've had that car perfectly set up at every single racetrack that we visited, and we visited completely different tracks. We've had the sort of tight and technical Missanos and Kyle Armies and Zandvoorts. We've had the Grand Prix circuit at Nürburgring, the wide open spaces here at Spa, but give them any kind of circuit and they seem to have a setup that works, they seem to have a driving style that works, and here at Spa they have just been, particularly Malinowski obviously in this second stint, they've just been absolutely unbeatable. But you need a good setup and a good car underneath you to be able to do these sort of times. So yes, full credit to Malinowski, but also the team have done their part in making sure that car has been out of touch all evening.
Sasha Glatter having another look then at Dan King, could get it done on the entry into Lecombe. can't get it done, though, gets the car slowed down in time and is harassing Dan King to within an inch of its life. These Aston Martins do not like being pushed at all. They are very, very prone to sliding when you overheat the tyres, but again, very consistent, very strong cars, and you can see that with the fact we've got 4 of them in the top 10, as well as having 3 Ferraris, although outside of the top 5 for those Ferraris. That's Jonas van Druyten, Jesse Kalpinen and Chris Hartveld in those machines, but it is still Maciej Malinowski up in the lead of this final Sprint Cup race of season 4 by about 14 seconds over Niels van der Kekil, his championship rival in UK OG 47, who is rapidly losing time to Matteo Blotto in the 340. Omega E-Racing team just behind him. It's all gone south for the 47, although to be honest, you know, they've had a mixed bunch of results. Finishing in the top 5 is not a failure. It's a wonderful, wonderful result, regardless of the championship standings, regardless of anything. Finishing in the top 5 in a race is a good achievement, and I think it's important to say that, because sometimes I know I can get a little bit distracted by the championship, but it is about those individual performances, isn't it?
If they can finish second in this race, UK OG 47, their average finish over the season would be 3.1. Now, in most cases, that would be more than enough to wrap up the championship, wouldn't it? If you can have an average finish over 6 races of 3.1, including a win, they've never been out of the top 5 at any point this season. If you delete the 992 team from the championship, then all of a sudden this has been an equally dominant performance for the 47 squad. So, you know, they've certainly not performed badly, have they? It's been a almost perfect season. They just couldn't quite take the fight to Random Pastable through that middle part of the season when they went on that winning spree at Kyle Army, Bathurst and Nürburgring. They were never far behind. They just needed an extra race win or 2, didn't they? But yeah, I mean, full credit to UK OG 47. It's still been a really outstanding season for them. No other team has been able to be as consistent as they have. Even Random Pastable haven't been as consistent as UK OG have. They just have those extra couple of race victories, don't they? So yeah, absolutely. Don't let this make you think that it's been a poor performance for that McLaren squad, because it certainly hasn't been.
No, it really, really hasn't, and we're very thankful for the entertainment that they have provided us. But what this does mean, though, that Niels van der Kekil, though, is just, 3 seconds ahead of Matteo Blotto. Now make that 2.6 as the gap starts to go down. But 15 minutes left to go in this final race of the championship. Let's have a look outside the top 10 then, because in 11th place is Leonardo Porco. In 12th place is the Carbon SimSport Blue machine of Marest Forzitlo. 13th position is Alex Radizzi in the 166 Beetle Sim Racing DE machine. In 14th place is Jack Noller in the 36 Bentley for GT Omega RPM Esports. It's then Jan Batomski in that 69 BMW. Now, this is something that kind of passed me by, Andy. That BMW, like I said, started 25th on the grid and is now in 15th position. So fantastic effort there. The 101 Ferrari of Arthur Zanaki in 16th position. The 94 McLaren of Rhys Tattersall in 17th position. 18th is Marcel Fusi in the 285 Mercedes. It's the 17th Ferrari of Rasmus Christensen in 19th position. And then Janis Saknis at the 20th position with the 112. So there we go. Andy, 1.9 seconds now, the gap between second and third place. This is getting desperate.
It is a little bit. Good news for Blotto is that Volmuth's not really coming with him anymore, though, is he? He's nearly 3 seconds behind him. So even if Van der Kekil comes over all defensive, it's unlikely, or less likely maybe, that Blotto is going to come under any pressure from Volmuth behind. In fact, Volmuth could lose 4th place here to James Parker, as they're side by side between the Aston Martins. Darren King trying to fend off Sasha Glatter, and succeeds in doing so as well for 8th position. That was some really feisty driving that from Darren King. Well done. Glatter there weaving around behind him as he tries to or considers sending it up the inside into Brissell. He's almost tapping a bit of Morse code now onto the rear diffuser of the 38 car ahead. Sasha Glatter will be getting a bit frustrated here, I think, because I think he is quicker than Darren. He just can't quite find a way through, but good to see that so far, touch wood, this battle has remained clean. The point I was about to make there is that Max Vollmuth, far from going after Blotto, is actually under threat, isn't he, for his 4th place from James Parker in the 888 car. Remember, if Parker can gain an extra position, he picks up an extra place in the championship into 6th place. So all to play here for Parker. It's not actually inconceivable still that the FFS Sendipoos team, the 888 squad, could still get into that all-important top 5 and earn some prize money, but they need the number 11 Ferrari to drop down the order another position or two for that to happen. Parker, though, is absolutely flying at this phase of the race.
Parker for a podium, you heard it here first. We'll see if that happens, but yeah, there's definite possibility as Dan King is doing some big shoulders right now, trying to hold on to that position from Sasha Glatter down on the run to the final chicane. Sasha Glatter's going to try and fight up the inside. It's going to be a battle of the late breakers. Glatter to the inside. There's still no contact. Dan King gets that position, but Glatter's going to try and have the cutback out of that final corner. That means that Dan King is going to have the inside for the source, and surely Sasha Glatter cannot do anything about that. Tries to, goodness me, tries to, but just can't do anything. Glatter might have had a better run out of the source though, and surely they're not going to go side by side. They think better of it, thankfully. But yeah, this battle just rages on.
Yeah, I think Glatter, with a good run through Radion here, could still get the slipstream up the Kemmel Straight. So we're going to get an action replay here, aren't we, of what happened a lap ago, because there's no way that King is going to give him the inside line. Look, you can see he's driving down the right-hand side. Actually, now he goes back over to the racing line because he realised that Glatter wasn't quite as close as he had been a lap ago. But King then stays in 8th place for the time being, as they wind their way through Lake On. Those gaps at the front not changing massively either. It's sort of stagnated now at 2 seconds or so between Van der Kekelt and Blotto, and then 2.5 back to the Vollmuth-Parker battle, which is a little closer than it was last time we saw them, but this is still the closest battle inside the top 10, and it is Darren King doing a brilliant job here to keep the Dalkin Community car ahead and to keep it at the moment in 6th place in the championship. But if either of these Aston Martin battles change, either the one for 4 or the one for 8th, it will cost the 38 car that place in the championship. So although it's not for prize money at the moment, it's only 6th place, they'll really want this to not change but in the remaining 10.5 minutes of the race.
Well, that is exactly what we are here for, because what a final 10 minutes we have got in store. That gap between 2nd and 3rd place. It feels like all of the race, or for the first 3 quarters of the race, we've been talking about Maciek Malinowski and Niels van de Kekelt for that championship, but it's all about the downfall of the 47 UK OG machine, because they are getting caught hand over fist. Matteo Blotto now 1.7 seconds behind that 2nd place car, and you get the feeling that if one of them gets their way past, then that car is going to fall, and where it drops, who knows indeed, because Matteo Blotto now 1.5 seconds. It's almost tantalisingly close as they come into Le Source. Certainly 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th are just now. We're watching Darren King still trying to hold on to Sasha Glatter, but yeah, I'm almost through my fingernails, Andy. This is wild finishing here. We go picture in picture here, and here's James Parker trying to go into the back of Maximilian Wollmuth. The two of them tied for speed, but Parker gets the slipstream, ducks out, thinks better of it, and pulls straight back in there. So again, I think a little bit of gamesmanship there. Yeah,
I think so. It's not worth going for it and absolutely sending it, because that will end in contact and you'll either be off the road or with a penalty, or both. So yeah, not worth going for a complete do-or-die manoeuvre just yet. Anyway, maybe on the last lap, but Parker won't want to throw away what has been actually a really decent season so far. Blotto, meanwhile, is closing in even more on Van der Kekelt. It's down to about 1.5 seconds. Came down by a chunk on that previous lap. So with in less than 10 minutes to go, Blotto is getting closer and closer, and he'll now be thinking about getting a bit of a slipstream maybe from the McLaren ahead. You don't know where to look, do you, at the end of this race? 8.5 minutes to go. You've got two cars getting themselves together for second. Then you've got the all Aston Martin battles, and here for 14th place, for 15th place, Potomski about to lose it, unfortunately, because round the outside goes Czarnecki, and the Ferrari does move into P15, but 16th place would still be that BMW's best finish of the season.
I'm kind of gutted by that, I'm not going to lie. I really am gutted. I wanted that BMW to do very, very well. But, I mean, let's say, heck of a charge to come through from 25th on the grid. However, here we go. This is what we wanted to see. Matteo Blotto for a Mega G performance in the 340. Bentley is hounding, harassing, haranguing Niels van de Kekkel in that 47 McLaren. And 7:44. I tell you what, Andy, this is going to be the longest 7 minutes 40 of Niels van de Kekkel's life right now, because if he manages to hold on to that second place, that boy deserves a trophy.
Yeah, I think there are quite a few drivers that are waiting to see the checkered flag, aren't they? Van Druyten, another one here, because Jesse Kauppinen's all over him. If Kauppinen gets that place, it will further solidify their place in 5th in the championships, and that's not a necessary move for Kauppinen to make, but it would just give them a little bit more breathing space as far as that final prize money giving position is concerned. They're going to get a good run here. Oh, a really good run through Eau Rouge and Raidillon, because it was a mistake from Van Druyten. Where's he gone? He was well out over the runoff area, and that should now surely allow the Gripax Engineering Ferrari ahead into 6th place. Yes, it does, and Jesse Kauppinen then gets into that P6. Can Van Druyten come back at him? He gets a second bite at the cherry there with a slipstream, but the 11 car does get into the corner ahead and gets those extra couple of valuable championship points. It means that they are now 8 points clear of the Dalkin Community car, which there you can see is still ahead of the number 81 Aston Martin.
But the Aston Martin is not going to be there for long, because Sasha Glatter hit with a drive-through penalty. Nothing in the penalties, so that is going to be for track limits. And one of the I think that's the only one we've seen today, certainly breaching track limits there. So devastating news for the number 81 of Sasha Glatter. But this is back with a battle for 4th and 5th position. Maximilian Walmuth trying to hold on to James Parker right now. Parker's done a brilliant job, I think, of just stalking Walmuth. But look at the gap now between Van de Kekkel and Blotto. That's down to 0.7 of a second as well. So we're going to be at the stage where poor Mike Yao, our broadcast director, doesn't know which battle to focus on. So yeah, that's definitely going to have his work cut out later on. But fantastic effort, and just to show off, Andy, he goes picture in picture so we don't miss anything. Thank you very much. James Parker has a little look up the inside, has to think better of it. Walmuth wins the battle on that one as well, but Blotto and Niels van de Kekkel go across the line. The gap is now 0.8 of a second, goes up very, very slightly as we've got 5.5 minutes left to go. Do you know what? I think there's a very slim possibility now that Niels van de Kekkel might actually hold on to this.
Honestly, if I'm Matteo Blotto, and I know I'm going to sound like a real damp squib here, but he doesn't need to attack the McLaren. He has got 3rd place in the championship wrapped up. He's 2.4 seconds ahead of Walmuth. He could afford to sit behind that McLaren now for the remaining 5 minutes and still come home 3rd in the championship. The only thing you stand to gain from dicing with the McLaren is 1 extra place in the race, which makes no difference to your points, but you stand to lose an awful lot if it goes wrong, because I'm sure Van de Kekkel ain't going to roll over without a fight. So it's also not going to be easy to overtake the McLaren, given its straight line speed advantage that it seems to have today. So I really do think that the best thing for Blotto to do is to settle into 3rd place. That being said, he was slower than Walmuth and Parker by quite a bit in the first sector on this lap, so maybe they're going to force the issue here and force him into having a go at the McLaren ahead. It's a fascinating final part of the race here. The championship itself looks as though it's on the way to random Pastable, though. They're 18.5 seconds up the road. They didn't need to win the race anyway to wrap up the title, but a 4th victory of the season now surely beckons for them. The question is what the order will look like behind them, and what, David, that means for the championship.
Well, that's exactly what we'll be waiting with bated breath to find out. Maverick410 on YouTube chat says he wants to see Maciej Malinowski doing a 16.9 to flip the commentators. If Maciej Malinowski does a 16.9, I will leave the voice chat immediately. That'll be just, I'll log off, get a cup of coffee on the go, and just... What are we even doing here if he's able to pull that out with tyres like that? I can't see it happening. Don't see it happening. And I've got to be honest, it won't be happening, unfortunately. Not through the lack of trying from Maciej Malinowski, but look at this. Parker again still hunting and harassing Maximilian Walmuth as they come through. That left-hander at Blanchimont. This is the run down towards the chicane. James Parker again looks to the inside. Do you know what he's doing? It's that whole Pavlov's Bell thing. He's training Walmuth to know that he's going to look down that right-hand side. So the next lap round or the lap after, Walmuth is going to dive over to that right-hand side. He's going to just take on the left here. So Parker is playing some huge mind games right now and doing a cracking job of holding on to that 71 right now as they go almost side by side down Eau Rouge. Every time I see that, Andy, my heart just drops in my mouth.
Well, it can be done. I've seen 3 wide through there once or twice before, but it really does require an awful lot of respect from the drivers. Now, that was a mistake, I think, was it, for Walmuth? He looked a bit scrappy over Radion, and so Parker is in the slipstream, but again, Walmuth defending the inside line, as is his right to do, but he can't now move back to the left because Parker's gone past him already. Parker drove straight past him. I was about to say you can't go back to the left because you're not allowed to move twice in defence, but there was no defence. Parker had gone straight past him, and Walmuth loses 4th place with just over 2 minutes of the race to go. James Parker moves himself into 4th position, and that now doubly takes the pressure off this man, Matteo Blotto. 3rd place, he's 2 places now ahead of his big rival for 3rd in the championship, and I don't think he's going to feel the need now to get too stuck into a battle with Niels van der Kakelt. As much as I'd like to see it, I think 3rd place will be more than enough for the Omega G Performance Squad, but what a move that was. And here you've got Marius Twarzidlo trying to do the same thing to Leonardo Porca, but David with slightly less success.
Yeah, the effort was there, but the execution needs a little bit of work. What can I say? A minute and a half. I think we've got probably 2 laps left to go. We'll start our final lap next time by, potentially. We'll have a look as the 992 heads round through Blanchimont and into the chicane. So, yeah, what a race we have had right now. I've got to be honest, it's went from Blotto being in potential for 2nd place to me wondering about James Parker and how far behind Matteo Blotto is. 2.4 seconds. I don't think he's got anything in the tank to potentially worry that 340 machine right now. But yeah, stranger things have happened, haven't they?
They have, absolutely, and I think if the race had been another 10 minutes longer, or if he'd have cleared Walmuth about 10 minutes earlier, he might just have had the time to do so, and he would have absolutely gone for it, because FFS Sendipoos still have ground to gain in the championship, but I think they're just going to run a little bit short on time, aren't they? This now then becomes one of the more intriguing battles. Leonardo Porco there, who still, for some reason that I haven't quite got to the bottom of, is showing a 15-second penalty, although I thought he'd served that in the pit stop already. I thought that should have disappeared, that graphic, for being a solo driver, but anyway, Porco is still there in 11th place. Twarzidlo is still struggling to get past him despite the straight line speeds proficiency of the McLaren, so good defensive drive this from Porco.
Yeah, really is. It's been fantastic stuff to watch. And there we go. The race is now at its final destination then. So this is going to be it as Maciej Malinowski comes across the line then. So we've only got a couple of corners left to go in this race. Niels van der Kakelt still going to have 2nd place. Matteo Blotto is going to have 3rd. James Parker surely is going to hold on to that 4th position. Maximilian Walmuth will finish in 5th potentially. Jesse Kalpen and company in 6th. Eunice van Breuten in 7th place. Dan King in 8th. Chris Hartfeld in 9th and Sasha Glatter in 10th position, but currently in the pit, so very likely to drop all the way down. But your race leader, the 992 of Maciej Malinowski, currently going down through campus just now. Then it's going to be the right-hander at Stavlo, already successfully navigated. Random past the ball now, just a couple of corners away. The car comes through the left-hander at Blanchimont with high speed. Look at that. That Porsche has looked absolutely faultless all day indeed. It's the run down through into the final chicane for the last time of season 4 of the Sprint Cup. It's going to be Maciej Malinowski with an absolute masterclass to win the championship. Random past the ball are your winners. A wonderful, wonderful performance there. It could have been so much different for Niels van de Kekkel and for George Boothby in the UKOG 47 team. But my goodness me, credit where credit is due. Like a sponge, Niels van de Kekkel soaks up all the pressure and holds on to a very, very unlikely second place. Third place, a well-deserved third place for Matteo Blotto in the 340 team there. And then James Parker comes across the line in fourth place for the 888. FFS Sendipu's outfit, Maximilian Walmuth in 5th place with the XL Racing by Renfelten outfit. 6th place is going to be Jesse Kalpinen in the 11, Eunice van Droyten in the 991, Dan King in the 38 in the 8, and then Chris Hartfeld in the 32 across the line in 9th place. Leonardo Porco is going to take the final position in the top 10 with Marius Tvorzidlo in 11th place. But the fireworks go off. The smoke flares go off here at the virtual recreation of Spa-Francorchamps. And, well, it took the final race to do it, but my goodness me, did they have the absolute foot on the throat of this championship.
I mean, how many times over the course of the last 90 minutes or longer did we say that, we mentioned the word pressure. We said that, UKOG 47, they had to apply pressure to random past the ball, try and force them into a mistake. I've rarely seen anyone respond to pressure better than I have seen Malinowski and Tauscher respond today. They were faultless over the course of the entire night. Qualifying, racing, pit stops, everything was absolutely spot on. Everything that George Boothby threw at Michael Tauscher in that first stint, Michael had an answer for. Everything that UKOG could throw at random past the ball all day long, really, they had an answer for, and they really are absolutely deserving champions. They're the first ever team as well, by the way, David, to win 4 races in one season of the Sprint Cup. We've had 3 races before. They've done that, of course, already this season, but they're the first ever to do 4 in a season. When you consider there are only 6 races in total, that really does sort of sum things up, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was an exemplary drive here as we see some of the highlights here from an exciting and enthralling race. And we've got a couple of drivers filing in just now. We should have the 340 in very shortly of Callie Atkins and Matteo Blotto, but one team who are in here, the runners-up in the championship, second place on the race tonight. Let's bring them in. Niels van de Kekkel and George Boothby. Gentlemen from UKOG 47. Wow. George, we'll come to you first. You did everything you could possibly do by getting that car in second place on the grid there. But, I mean, how did that feel to see that time going in from the random past the ball team?
Yeah, they were so fast, man. They were so fast. I feel like if it was dry and quali, they might have struggled a bit more. I don't know what their quali pace was, but yeah, in the rain, there was just no chance. I did like the lap of my life, and it just wasn't enough. But yeah, that start was amazing. I managed to successfully lose the lead, I think, about 3 times by outbraking myself. And then, they just drove away, and there's just nothing I could have done. Just did not have the pace. To get P2, we'll take it. It was, they drove so well. And then P2 in the championship as well. So, yeah, very happy with it.
Just on that note, do you have any fingernails left after that second half of the race?
there's a few. Yeah, they're still there. Just about. They're there.
Stumps of fingers.
Our setup for the McLaren as well was very slidey, so the amount of like near-death experiences, that added to the fingernail biting, definitely.
I just wanted to ask though, George, I mean, what else could you and Niels have done this season? I mean, every single result has been in the top 5. Any other championship that would have been good enough for a championship win, but it just wasn't to be this season.
Maybe without a huge target on our back, we would have been more in contention, but that's okay.
Yeah, we had a few mishaps in the first few rounds, but I mean, even with that, even if we didn't have that, I don't think we would have won. Maybe we could have drove quicker. There's always that.
Niels, coming to yourself, now obviously we've seen you race time and time again here at the SimGrid, and unfairly I think that's actually given us, expectations of you, your ability and your pace, and for some reason tonight you just seem to struggle with that car. What happened tonight?
Yeah, well, I've just recently started working full-time, so I'm a bit short on time to practice. But on top of that, I think the pace was actually very reasonable. I even got into the 17s at one point. It's just that the tires died completely on me. Now, I don't know if that's because of the tire wear or because it was my right rear tire just dropping a lot of pressure. Like it was really offset to all the other 3 tires. So, the car was just already very slidey in terms of setup. So, yeah, with tires that aren't really behaving like you want them to, it results in a bit of a slidey car. But all in all, I mean, I came out of the pits in P2 and I finished P2, so I can't really be too upset about it.
Absolutely, and that brings me on to my final point. You must have been seeing the timing screens and thinking, "Oh wait, hang on a minute here." And the fact is, it never actually came to anything. There was times where, obviously, the car behind you got very, very close, but never actually close enough to mount an attack on you.
Yeah. I was like, at one point, I was really struggling. I was like dipping into the 19s. I was doing like high 18s, low 19s. So I was like, oh, damn it. I saw him closing in. So I was like, okay, come on, just focus for those last few laps, because I knew they would be crucial if I wanted to hang on to P2. So I got out a few mid-18s, and well, that was enough to keep Matteo behind. Just about though.
Well, it was an exciting and enthralling race from everyone here in the production team. Thank you so much, and congratulations for second place in the race and in the championship to UKOG 47. Well done, guys.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you for the championship as well, and have a good one.
Yeah, cheers, guys. Thank you.
So there we go then. That is George Boothby and Niels van de Kekelt. Let's go and have a chat with Callie Atkins then and Matteo Blotto, our third place finishers tonight. Obviously, Callie started in the car first. Good evening. Welcome along. And well, that was an exciting end to the race there, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a very difficult race, having to start 18th due to the Bentley not being the best in the wet, but made the best of it. I think I got to P7 on the first lap, and the pace of the car was just brilliant, and Blotto did an amazing job in the second stint, maintaining third, and we finished third overall.
I love how you're so calm and relaxed about it. It's like, yeah, started 18th, got 7th place on the opening lap. What about it? Talk us through that opening lap, though, because, I mean, to do that is just absurd spatial awareness, Callie, and incredible pace as well.
Yeah, we had to dodge quite a few crashes in that, but yeah, managed to keep driving all right, and yeah, just had to keep calm. Otherwise, if I lost my head, then would have been making mistakes and we would have dropped back, but managed to stay calm throughout. So did Blotto, and 18th to 3rd.
And Matteo, we'll come over to yourself just now, because obviously after the pit stop you came out, and for whatever reason you had like a firework in the car or an X-set missile or whatever it was, you were catching rapidly on the UK OG 47 team. I mean, how much inspiration did that give you, seeing the time coming down?
Yeah, the race was difficult because we started to be 18, but Kali did an amazing job with the super start. And after the pit stop, when it was my sector, I did a good race, and the car was brilliant, and I catch Nils, and we fight a little for the position, but third position, it was the position that we need for the championship.
Yeah, again, your third podium of the season. Are you two going to be celebrating tonight?
Yeah, we celebrate.
Yeah, 100%.
Excellent stuff, guys. Oh, sorry, Callie, on you go.
I'd like to thank our sponsors, G Performance, for sponsoring us throughout this season. Free Drap as well. I'd like to say massive thanks to them. Massive thanks to Giuseppe for the setup. Was astonishing. Shame he couldn't race, but nonetheless, it was amazing. And I'd like to say thanks to my parents for watching and supporting.
Excellent stuff. Callie, I've got to say, well done, buddy. As somebody that works in marketing and PR, well done on remembering to thank your sponsors, buddy. Congratulations then to the 340 Omega E-Racing team of Callie Atkins and Matteo Blotto. Well done, guys, and we'll see you next season. So there we go then. All that's left, Andy, is to have a chat to our champions.
I don't know. Should we bother? I don't know if it's worth it. Is it really?
Thanks for joining us. No, I'm joking. Let's bring in Mike Tauscher and the legends that is Mr. Maciek Malinowski, because we have to know what on earth he had for breakfast. But gentlemen, Random Pastable and your champions for season 4. Maciek Malinowski and Michael Tauscher. Michael, we'll come on to you first. Talk us through the start of that race, because you really had everybody else in your rear view mirror after you dealt with UK OG 47.
Yeah, it was a tough start because we know we don't have any straight line speed in the Porsche, and yeah, we were hoping for a wet, but yeah, unfortunately it was dry. So I somehow kept George behind, and he luckily made some small mistakes. Yeah, and from that point on, I just kept pushing and tried to, build a gap.
So did you enjoy that first stint of the race then? Because after the first 5-10 laps where George was heaping that pressure onto you, you then started getting, I think it was once you started getting a second and a half, he then started to drift away a little bit.
Yeah, definitely enjoyed it. It was a bit tricky because the track was pretty slow at the beginning. So everyone was destroying the tires, and at the end of the first stint, we had better grip, but our tires were just gone. So yeah, if it was optimum track at the beginning of the stint, it would be even better. But yeah, as long as we get P1, I'm fine.
And moving on to Maciek Malinowski, we have to ask you some questions, sir. Firstly, what on earth is that, right? Michael comes in and drops off the car with a good 3.84 second gap, and by the time you're finished the race, Mr. Malinowski, you've got an 18.3 second gap over second place and consistently hitting purple laps. What on earth did Michael feed you today?
I think that has to be BOP.
You were supposed to say that was your superior talent and skill.
Nah, I mean the car's is amazing. I just like that. I just like that car, even though it's not outright the fastest car. Well, you know, we got a custom BOP from SimGrid, and we didn't get that much ballast. We got some, but not that much. and both me and Michael, we just know how to make that car go fast, both setup-wise, both driving-wise. And not only today in that stint when I drove away, throughout the season we just enjoyed ourselves and driving so much. With that car on every track, racing other people, all those sometimes things that we, it seemed like it was easy alone, but we were always trying to push to be as fast as possible. So yeah, it was just amazing season for us, and this race today was a great way to finish it with another win. On the track we didn't really expect to perform well, but still we put in some time earlier today to prepare for various conditions. We had setups for various kinds of wet, be it only damp, be it full wet. We had a nice dry setup, and yeah, we just gave our best to really solidify the season.
So I've got two more questions for you, Masek. One is the fact that I've noticed that a certain Masek Malinowski is teamed up with Jardier and George Boothby for the Endurance Cup Season 4.
That came out today afternoon.
Yeah, so tell us about that then, because how are you feeling about teaming up with those two?
Well, I drove with George previously. We were driving in a Signmax car in quite a few races actually, and we always had really friendly relationship with George. So we love driving together. We love driving against each other, and with Jardier as well. Not only on SimGrid but in other leagues as well. It's common to see us both on the track fighting it out. So yeah, I was looking to maybe create the team of my own to enter the Endurance Cup, or maybe team up with already existing team. And since guys wanted me to join, and I was also looking for a team to join. I decided, and Veloce decided to take me for that Endurance Cup to see how we're gonna do together, and I'm really looking forward to it. And because it seems like a dream team. Me, George Boothby. It's gonna be certainly amazing. Looking forward to that, definitely.
Some frightening talent on that team for sure. So we look forward to seeing that in Endurance Cup Season 4. Masek Malinowski and Michael Teicher, gentlemen, congratulations on the season win. I hope you enjoy the night, have lots and lots of wild partying and celebration. Although let's face it, it's social distancing, so it's probably a pot noodle and a cup of coffee. So enjoy your night, guys, and thank you very much for providing some incredible action over the season.
Thanks, guys. Yeah. Like I said, we enjoyed it so much. So thank you very much, and yeah, let's hope to see you on the next championship. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
There we go then. Well, what can I say? Andy, that was awesome.
Yeah, I think that sums it up pretty well, actually. It's been a real thrill ride, hasn't it, this whole Sprint Cup? My first time working on a Sprint Cup championship, actually, and I couldn't have enjoyed it more. I really hope to be back for the next one because, the racing's been fantastic, but what I've really liked is getting to know some of these drivers actually a bit more now and really starting to sort of understand what makes them tick, where their strengths lie, and following their stories over the course of the season has just been fantastic. And yeah, we've seen Sprint Cup history made now with the this dominant performance for the Porsche squad. The Porsche, by the way, the first manufacturer to win more than one of these Sprint Cups as well. So that appears to be the car to have, and there's no doubt about it that Random Pasta Bowl, they're the team to be with because they know what they're doing. They are worthy champions. So too are the drivers, and yeah, can't wait to see what the future holds for them.
If we were to sum up then, Sprint Cup Season 4 in one word, domination would be Random Pasta Bowl taking the championship. Masek Malinowski, Michael Teicher and Corey Pride are your Season 4 champions, with UKOG 47 in second place and Omega G Performance taking third place in the championship. Thank you very much to everyone that has been watching tonight. A huge thank you to our commercial partners over at Coach Dave Academy and at Thrustmaster as well. And as always, head over to thesimgrid.com to get yourself involved with the community and get yourself involved with all the championships we've got coming up. I've been David Christie. He has been the one, the only Andy McEwan. Sorry, Andy, yes.
I was laughing at the brilliant outro you were giving me there, David. Thank you very much.
I got all confused there. But also, before we go, we have to say a huge thank you, as always, to our stewards behind the scene and our amazing top-class production team of Michael Hamlet and Mike Yao. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Hit subscribe, and we'll see you for the next race.